This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, yesterday we discussed on specifics on the generic cloud. We did not talk anything specific to Microsoft Azure. We just talked about what are the advantages and benefits of going towards cloud. What are the challenges we had before we have to adopt cloud? For example, we have to size the environment, and a lot of unused capacity will be there in the on-premises data center. So after cloud evolution, okay, things like we can start consuming what we need and we can pay for that. It's a kind of um, utility based model where we can just go for the actual consumption, right? And also we discussed about what are the different service model that we can get services from the cloud. So we can get services like a infrastructure as a service model where cloud provider will only manage the physical infrastructure. And similarly we have got platform as a service where the cloud provider will manage both the infrastructure and the platform. When I say platform, it includes the operating system, the runtime, Java, .NET, or whatever runtime the application is developed, and also the middleware. When it is termed as software as a service, it is readily available to consume. For example, your Google Mail or a Google Drive, you don't have to install any operating system, or you don't have to create any code. Just creating an identity and account should be enough to consume the services from software as a service. Okay, so these are the three different service model, and there are different products and services that different cloud providers offers. Part of infrastructure as a service, PaaS, and software as a service. We'll get to understand that as and when we discuss different topic. So for infrastructure as a service, virtual machine is a classic example. And for platform as a service, Azure App Services is a classic example. And for software as a service, we have the Office 365 from Microsoft, where we get SharePoint, Exchange, Teams, all those things as a service. Okay, so these are the three different service model based on who services what, who manages what, is what is going to distinguish this. Okay, the next one is cloud deployment model. We discussed about what are the different forms of cloud. So it's not that there is only one version like public cloud. Public cloud is available for all general public to consume. Whereas we have got other deployment models. So you can also have your own private cloud for your university or your college, or you can have it for your organization. And also you can have a specific community cloud built for a specific healthcare community or a government organization, or for a specific country. You can create a specific community cloud, and you can also use certain services to be hosted on on-premises private cloud and public cloud. We can have a mix of consumption from public and private. So that is called hybrid cloud. So based on the location, we have got four classifications. And moving on to the characteristics, only if the listed characteristics are active and utilized in your data center or in the uh, service provider location, then we can really call that as a cloud environment. So without single sign-on and self-service portal, without things getting automatically created based on your request, we cannot call that as a kind of cloud. So all these features or characteristics should have to be there if you term a particular data center as a cloud, as a private cloud. So there are definitely disadvantages of going towards cloud. So especially the vendor lock-in and the dependency on the network, internet connection, and some of the transparency, data privacy. So these are all some of the disadvantages. So we focused on these five topics yesterday. Besides this, we also discussed how the different service provider are performing in the cloud market, where they are currently, and whether they are really challenging the competitors in the cloud, whether they are already leaders. So we discussed that Gartner Magic Quadrant yesterday, and so these are the topics we discussed. Any questions before we go on to day two? Okay, so today we'll be getting inside specifics of Azure. Okay, so there are multiple cloud providers, there are multiple cloud services platform. Why we need to choose Microsoft Azure? and similarly how Microsoft has deployed their cloud actually. What are the different deployment model that are available? And in order to create certain products and services in Azure platform, what is that we need? Whether we need some account, whether we need some subscription. So we'll get to understand how to create an Azure account, how to create a subscription, how to choose a support plan. So all these things will be discussed today to start with. And also we will discuss after the snacks break, after the tea break, we'll continue to discuss on Azure, where we'll continue to discuss on Azure geographical presence, how they are geographically scattered, where exactly their data centers are currently present, and how we can consume those. So we'll discuss about the geographical presence and so on. Okay, so we are getting started with day two session. And let's start with why Azure. Okay, from if I ask the question to you guys, so you might have some answers like I'm coming from Microsoft background. I have been working as a Wintel administrator, or I have been working as a database administrator on Microsoft SQL product. So I have been working on Microsoft product portfolio, ACCM or SCOM or whatever, right? And you felt that Microsoft Azure would be a right fit since I've got experience in Microsoft products and portfolio. I thought this might be the best fit and I've joined this course. So that might be the answer from the learner perspective. But this question is more towards why we need to choose Azure for our customers, right? Because like as we discussed yesterday, there are three major providers. Even Amazon Web Services, it is also having more customers than Azure, right? And what might be the reason why we need to suggest or recommend Microsoft Azure for specific customer? So definitely not all the customers might be a best fit for Azure. Okay, so there are certain reasons why we can go and choose Azure comparing with other cloud provider, right? So there are multiple major cloud service platform. And as we discussed yesterday, AWS, Amazon Web Services, is one of the platform which is very popular and have got a lot of infrastructure as a service customer. And Microsoft Azure is one of the platform where they sell different products and services, including the marketplace appliances, and we have also got Google Cloud Platform. So these are the three major global platform, but we have got some platform from Alibaba, VMware, IBM. So there are hundreds of cloud services platform, but they are all specific to certain workload. For example, Alibaba is specifically focusing on Asia market. Salesforce has got their own customers. Oracle has got their own customer base. So there are multiple hundreds of cloud services platform, but these are the three in the leader quadrant. These are the ones which has got considerable number of customers. Okay, and when we talk about Microsoft Azure, there are two different entities. Okay, the Microsoft Azure platform is mainly the public cloud platform where any general public can go and create products and services. Okay, this is available for every general public. But see, for example, you are a customer where you have a lot of legal requirements or compliancy requirements. Your security requirement says that you cannot host your services in public cloud. So if that is the case and you actually like the different characteristics that is being offered using Azure, and you want to utilize that self-service portal, or you want to utilize those orchestration, automation, metering. So you want to experience this characteristics, and your legal requirement says you cannot go and host it in Microsoft Azure platform. So Microsoft has given another platform, which is a private cloud platform, which you can consume using Azure Stack. So Azure Stack is a kind of set of appliance. They will be sending a set of server hardware, storage, and the characteristics installed, pre-installed on it. So you can just turn on and then start using the Azure. I mean, it might be very much similar to Azure cloud platform, public cloud platform, but it is a simulation, or it is a kind of private cloud platform that you can consume for your specific organization. This can be limited to your organization. You will start consuming the services through the cloud characteristics model, but this is specific to your cloud. I mean, to your organization. Similarly, other organizations like AWS and VMware, everyone is providing private cloud platform. For example, AWS offers us Outposts, which is a competitor for Azure Stack. Similarly, VMware, we realize, is the number one product in the private cloud platform. So a lot of providers, they also provide public cloud platform where any general public can go and create an account and consume. They also provide you private cloud platform where you can deploy it only for your dedicated organization, and you can exactly, it will look like the same portal, and you will have the same look and feel, but it is dedicated to your organization. And the other important thing of going with Microsoft Azure is that it has got better integration with existing System Center product. I'm not sure how many of you have got experience in working with System Center product. System Center is a suite of products. So for example, for patching, they use Configuration Manager, System Center Configuration Manager. And for monitoring, they use Operations Manager. And for backup, they use Data Protection Manager. So it is a kind of set of tool sets which can provide you all the necessary operational functionality. So if you have a IT environment or an IT data center, you can go and maintain the configuration of the system. You can do some kind of monitoring and observability from all the different systems. You can go and take backup. You can have virtualization enabled using Hyper-V. And so in fact, they call it a System Center Virtual Machine Manager, which is a kind of equivalent to vCenter, which manages the complete virtualization platform. So if you are going with Azure, by default, the APIs are already there to integrate with SCCM. If you have some servers running on on-premises data center in Azure, you can start managing it through SCCM from on-premises, and also vice versa. If you have a SCCM environment deployed in the cloud, you can start doing the hybrid capabilities. So this hybrid capabilities or the integration is a big plus. For example, if you have customers who are already using SCCM for patching, SCOM for monitoring, and SCDPM for backup, they can continue to use these licenses or continue to use this product, and it will have a um, direct integration option already available. You don't have to go and write any API calls. You don't have to do a lot of steps in integrating. So there is a better integration between the existing Microsoft products, and it is much better for you. Okay, and you know that Microsoft is not new to IT, right? So they have been in the market since 1990s, early 1990s. So they have got a lot of different products that they used to offer. I'm not sure how many of you are exposed to those products. Let me try to show you something here. Give me a second. Yeah. So they started their journey 20, 25 years back. Okay. So they started with Hotmail, Windows Live, MSN. I'm not sure if you're an early person who started using 98 or Windows 98 or Windows 2000, you might have seen this MSN Live, and they have been running Windows updates. See, once Microsoft sells Microsoft product to their customers, okay, they have to distribute the latest packages, bundles, and so on. See, for example, if they have 1 crore customers in India and maybe 10 lakh customers in Australia, what they have to do is they cannot distribute the Windows update or any patch updates to all the different region globally. So what they generally do is they deploy a data center in each of the region, and they actually distribute the packages or patches or whatever new offering through that data center. Okay, they used to have their data center presence even in the early 90s. So Microsoft data centers has not been recently deployed. So they have experience of maintaining the data center for more than 25 years now. So which means Microsoft knows how to maintain the compliancy, how to establish the security requirements, how to get the legal certification. So all these experience, they have been doing it for 25, 30 years now. But whereas if you compare it with Google or Amazon, so they are not primarily coming from IT experience. So especially Amazon, they are coming with different marketing experience. So they used to be a good sellers at the beginning, and then they changed into the IT platform, and they started selling IT related products and services. But Microsoft has got much more experience, and also they had a lot of investments already done on the IT side. So they used to have data center even in 1990s. Okay, they have got global data centers through which they used to provide MSN service, Hotmail service, Windows update for all your desktop laptops. So whatever Microsoft, I mean, right? Majority of the systems that we used to have in the home or in the offices, it used to be Microsoft flavor, either 95 or 98 or XP or Windows. So we used to have a lot of different variant of Microsoft product, and they have been distributing the packages through their network room or through their server data center in all the locations. So they had Bing, they had live meeting, Microsoft Online Services, and now it has got hundreds of products and services that different consumers are consuming. So if you talk about products, they had products of whatever category you think of. For example, if you talk about operating system, they had operating system since 1995 or 1990s, right? Early 1990s. They had Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows XP, and so on, Windows 7, Vista, all those things. So Microsoft Windows is very popular operating system platform. So they had this. And if you talk about like databases, they had their own Microsoft SQL, which is also very popular in the database industry. And for programming, they had .NET. So whatever you think of, like search engine or uh, patch engine, so all the different products were already available from Microsoft. But if you compare it with the different vendors, for example, Amazon introduced their Amazon Linux only in 2010 or around that period. So until that time, so even in Amazon Web Services, they were accepting customers to run their services on Red Hat Linux or Microsoft Windows or third-party Linux. So Amazon introduced these operating systems only in the recent times. If you compare the platform or products from Microsoft, it has been there in the industry for 25, 30 years. And so there is, I mean, you can think about ways of comparing it, because Amazon Linux comes from a different Linux kernel. Okay, so 1 minute. Let me just see. You guys are able to hear me okay, right?
Understand.
Okay,
Understand?
We can hear.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
sure, sure. 1 second. Let me forward this to one of the person. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, so what I was telling is like the products and services, they are not offering after the cloud evolution. So they have been having different products, different services even before this cloud concept came into picture, right? So let me mute the line. Okay. And the other thing, see, yesterday we were discussing on some of the benefits of portability, right? Portability in terms of licensing. You can bring your existing licenses to cloud. So bring your own license is a big, big benefit. You get around 50% discount. Either it is OS license or database license. You can port your license from on-premises to the cloud, and there is a small procedure that you need to follow, so which is called software assurance process. So that is nothing but you need to inform Microsoft that you have purchased this license for usage in your own data center, but now you're going to use it in Microsoft Azure platform or Amazon Web Services platform or in cloud services platform. So you need to tell them that you are not going to use the licenses in on-prem, you're going to use it in cloud platform instead. There is no cost involved, but there is a approval or software assurance, some legal compliance requirements are there that you need to tell them that you're using it in this location or wherever you are planning to use it. Okay, and the advantages of Microsoft platform, right? They have been providing a lot of products and services which are very graphical in nature, but I mean, being graphical, it has got its own disadvantages and advantages, right? So the disadvantages is that anyone can log in, including the kids can log into the operating system and start playing around because of the graphical nature. But it's kind of user friendly as well, so anyone can learn things quickly, and programming is much easier or much better in Microsoft. Okay, so that's the advantage of going with Microsoft product. Either it is programming or managing it in operating system. Okay, so everything that they offer, it's all graphical. But they also tried giving a core operating system, but that was not very successful for certain reason. Okay, but here we are talking about the brand. Okay, so the brand itself is very important. Okay, Microsoft as a company, they have been a trusted provider for many organizations for 25-30 years now, and they have been having a lot of enterprise customer who have been using Microsoft product for more than 25 years now. So they have been having enterprise customers. So whatever name you think of, everyone started using Microsoft product, either it is operating system or database or whatever it is, right? So the brand name. So why I'm insisting this point here. So see, if you take Amazon, okay, they just started with IT in 2005 or 2006 in Amazon cloud platform, but Microsoft has got already customers already consuming Microsoft product. If in case they want to go and sign some enterprise agreement, or if they want to kind of sell their product, they don't have to go and explore who needs to be contacted, who would be the right contact. So they need not explore certain things, because they already know in this organization, he is the key contact, he is the IT manager, or he is the person who decides what needs to be implemented. So they know whom to reach, and they have that advantage. Okay, it's a um, very good advantage, in fact. So whatever, like if a customer is using Microsoft operating system or Microsoft database or Microsoft .NET framework, they should have already signed an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, that they have purchased these many licenses or these many software bundle, and this enterprise agreement just need to be amended for consumption of Azure cloud platform. They don't have to sign a separate agreement. So they have the easiest option to take more customers into Microsoft support. So if you look at here, yesterday there was another question from someone, right? One of our team member asked, what are the different organization that is using Azure? This might be slightly old, but whatever name you think of in the globe, which is falling under Fortune 500 or Fortune 100, almost all of them are using Microsoft Azure. So as on date, Microsoft customers, I mean, 98% of Fortune 100 companies or Fortune 500 companies are using Azure. Okay, it was 95 in 2018-19 time, but now they have got 90, 98, close to 98% of Fortune 500 companies, which are the biggest companies, right? So Fortune 500 companies across the globe consumes Microsoft Azure. Okay, earlier they were also consuming Microsoft product, and they were easily able to um, convert them for utilizing Microsoft Azure. So that's the biggest advantage. See, we have a lot of big names here, and they've got 30 years of relationship with different partners. And to sell this Microsoft Azure, they've got 68,000 plus partners, which means this is the best or broadest in the cloud platform. So they have a very big partner network. For example, in India, they've got Reddington, they've got TCS, who is a kind of Microsoft partner who actually sell some of their products. So they have got 68,000 plus partners who can take their product portfolio to the end customer. And this 70% certification is little old data. So I'll give you the latest data here. Okay, possibly we can check in the internet directly, because that changes very often. Okay, let me get you the number quickly. So when I say certification, so if you're running a data center, for example, if you're going to onboard a particular financial customer or a pharmaceutical customer, they will look for some specific industry certification on the data center premises, whether they've got the specific certification, compliance certification. So now you can see that there are 93 plus. I would not say 93, because this might be a little old number, 3 months old number. So 93 plus compliance offering is being offered by Microsoft data centers. Okay, so in order to get this compliance certified, or in order to get this accreditation, it's not a very easy process. Okay, so there is a lot of auditing that has to be done, and a lot of auditors will come to your data center. They will ask a lot of questions to the support team members there. They will look at the data center. They will see how the different processes and framework work. So based on that, they will provide the approval. See, if you look at here, globally, we have got the ISO certification, which is the most valued certification for any data center. And if you look at here, there are some regional certification also. See, if Indian government decides to run specific services, for example, if they want to run some government related application in Microsoft Azure, they will ask whether Ministry of Information Technology, MIT, has approved Azure platform. So if Microsoft Azure says yes, MIT has already approved running the services on Microsoft Azure platform, then that makes things easier for the government organization to run services on the specific Azure platform. So we have got some regional accreditations or compliance certification like PDPA, trucks, and Germany has got IT, this one, and Germany has got CS. So similarly, this is very important, right? So Singapore has got MTCS level 3. None of the other cloud providers provide level 3 certification in MTCS. Okay, so there are some specific areas where if you're talking to a customer in a specific location like India, Singapore, or whatever location, you can highlight that these are the compliance certification that we have for regional level. And at the global level, we have got ISO, SOC, CSA, all the major certifications, and with the major auditing versions, they've got all these things, right? And similarly, if you are going to talk to a US government official, they will ask for Department of Defense or FedRAMP or these kind of certification details, right? The CAS compliance or the ITAR compliance. And if you're talking to industry vertical, for example, if you're talking to financial industry, they will ask whether payment card industry data security standard approval is already there. And they will also ask the level of approval that you have got. And similarly, if you are talking to some other healthcare industry, they will the pharmaceutical organization will ask whether we have got the HIPAA certification. Similarly, like if you're talking to different industry vertical like automobile or manufacturing or finance organization, so they will look for some specific compliance certification on the data center. So globally, Azure has got all these compliance certifications enabled on their data center. So it is market wide, it is global, and all the data centers, they have got this. So they have much better experience than any other provider. Only company that might have more experience than Microsoft is IBM, or maybe HP might have been running data centers even prior to Microsoft. But other than that, the competitors like Amazon Web Services, Google, so these competitors, they started having experience of running data center very recently. Okay, now when I say recently, it's 15, 16 years already now, but they have got double the experience. So they know how to get the compliance certification, how to get the accreditations, how to get the legal things cleared, how to do the auditing year on year, how to renew it. So they know that they have been doing for multiple years now. So they know how to do this. Okay, and the next important point that, I mean, any questions from anyone? Yesterday there was a question, right, about the customers and about some of these details. So see, we cannot, I mean, it, when I say 98% of the Fortune 500, almost all the companies are covered, right? So we need not go and list down each and every names. So whatever names you think of from different industry vertical, from banking to technology companies, everything is listed here, right? Yeah, let us go back here on the screen. Okay, so coming back to some other important points, they also support open source technology. This was a major problem with Microsoft Cloud at the very beginning. Okay, the challenge was initially when Microsoft Azure, no, I mean, I'll take a step back. So when I say Azure, initially it was branded as Windows Azure. Okay, so it was launched in 2010 as Windows Azure platform, and they supported majorly Microsoft related products. See, for example, they supported only MS Windows, they supported only .NET framework, they supported only Microsoft related product on their cloud. And for the customer, they always ask this question, right? See, I'm running my application on Microsoft in my own data center, and again I'm moving it to Microsoft platform without any changes. There is no modernization, or there is no changes happening as part of this migration towards your data center. So what exactly I'm going to get in terms of monetary benefits, what kind of additional features, functionality, what kind of agility, or what kind of improvement that I'm going to get when I migrate to your data center? That question was not answered by Microsoft until 2013-14, until they rebranded Windows Azure to Microsoft Azure. They changed the brand from Windows Azure to Microsoft Azure. From the name itself, it is more inclining towards Microsoft Windows operating system, right? So they rebranded it in 14, when Satya Nadella took over Microsoft Azure platform portfolio, and they started supporting the open source technology. See, open source technology doesn't mean just the operating systems of Linux and all those things. Even, for example, if you want to do some dashboarding, or if you want to do some alerting, or if you want to do some monitoring, there are a lot of tool sets, right? For example, you got Prometheus, you got Grafana, you got a lot of hundreds and hundreds of open source technology. Like there are some Docker supported platform. You have support for Kubernetes. So there are a lot of open source platforms that are widely adopted by different organizations. So after Microsoft allowed support for open source technology, then the revenue started growing. Yesterday we saw that, right? In 2016, they had only 10% customer base, and today they have got close to 60% customer base, which itself answers how things changed. Okay, initially they supported only Microsoft flavor of product on cloud platform. They had branded name as Windows Azure. They changed it in 2013 itself. They announced it, but the actual changes reflected in 2014, when Satya Nadella changed complete um, cloud portfolio, cloud platform, to allow support for the open source platform. See, only when customers feel that they are reducing money from migrating from some performance monitoring tool to open source. For example, a lot of customers are moving from Dynatrace or New Relic to cloud native monitoring. So which means they are reducing the license cost of these performance monitoring tool sets. So they are migrating to cloud native observability or monitoring solutions. So that we are not just talking about converting operating system and reducing the OS license. Even the monitoring license, the open source technologies are coming for lesser cost. Only we need to get subscription. We don't have to pay for licenses there. So that advantages started pouring in into the Microsoft Azure platform, and automatically from 2014 or 2015, every month they started getting 1,20,000 new subscriptions every month. Okay, so that's the um, drastical change that happened in 2014-15 time. So Azure started getting more subscriptions, more customers every month. See, not all the 1,20,000 are professional customer requirement. Some of them started creating new subscriptions for some POCs or practice or whatever. But 1,20,000 new subscriptions every month starting 2015, it's a huge incline in the customer base, right? So that is very important. And the next important thing is Microsoft operating system. So, if, for example, a lot of applications have been running on Windows platform or Microsoft SQL database platform. If you're talking about those platforms, definitely it is pretty cheaper when you are running it on Microsoft Azure. See, for example, for running Microsoft Windows on AWS and comparing it with Azure, it will be definitely 5 times cheaper in Azure platform. The reason is Microsoft owns the product. So Amazon has to resell that product from their side. Okay, so they actually will be costlier than Azure. But ideally, like, we should compare it in a different way, but I'll come to that point. See, if you look at here, if you are purchasing or if you are running a Windows server on Azure platform, and if you are running the same Windows server on AWS platform, it will be 5 times more expensive in Amazon platform. The reason is this is Microsoft product. Similarly, if you're running SQL server, it will be again 5 times costlier in Amazon Web Services. So if the customer is running their application on Windows Server and SQL Server platform, definitely they will try to come to Microsoft Azure because it is 5 times cheaper. And if you have 100 workloads, automatically you can multiply and you can realize the cost benefit, right? So that is one important thing. But ideally, we should not compare it that way. I'll tell you how we should compare. But 5 times costlier in AWS if you are running MS, Windows, or Microsoft SQL databases. See, if you compare MS Windows on Azure and Amazon Linux on AWS, this will not be a big difference. Okay, it will be the same amount, or the pricing will be the same. Similarly, if you are comparing MS SQL DB on Azure, and if you're comparing Amazon Aurora database on AWS, this will be the same exact pricing. But I mean, this is a marketing slide, I would say, but still, this is definitely we have to agree and accept it, because a lot of applications have been historically running on Microsoft Windows servers and Microsoft SQL databases. So if you want to migrate those hundreds or thousands of servers to cloud platform, then your first choice will be Microsoft Azure platform. The reason is like it is directly 5 times cheaper. Okay, but if you compare their proprietary operating system and proprietary database and Microsoft flavor on Azure and AWS, then the cost might not be that different. But here we are talking about if you have existing workload that are running on Windows platform or SQL databases. So if you're migrating it to Azure or AWS will be 5 times costlier. That is the comparison that we are talking about. Azure will be 5 times cheaper. Okay, so if you have a customer who has got a lot of existing Windows base and database platform used, then you can go for Microsoft Azure. That's the message we are conveying here. Okay, and the next important thing is getting free extended security update. So if you are a customer who has got some 2008 or 32-bit releases, if you are migrating it to Microsoft Azure platform, you will get extended security update. Okay, these are all already deprecated in on-premises. If you are currently running Windows 2008 or SQL 2008, these operating systems are already these database and operating systems are already deprecated. So Microsoft is no more providing support in on-premises. On-prem, they are not. MS is not providing security updates or any support. But there is a way that some enterprise customers has got some special case approval. So there are some case to case. Some enterprise customers has got some agreement from Microsoft that they will continue to support for the next couple of years. But if you migrate it to Azure platform, automatically you get 3 years extended security updates. Okay, for these outdated operating systems or legacy operating system. So that is a big advantage, right? You will continue to get security updates and support from Microsoft if you are running Microsoft Windows 2008 or SQL 2008 on Azure only. Okay, if you are migrating it to AWS, there is no support for that. So that again, it's a kind of marketing move from Microsoft, and still it makes sense, right? So let's see what else we have. Go ahead.
Stanley, one
Yeah.
one query. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
you said like when you're moving to the Azure, like a security update they are giving for free. So it is like a moving like a, how they like a counting and coverage kind of number of servers or one region like that we are having the number of servers that only they will consider.
See, Arun, when you talk about operating system and the databases, there is a different licensing model that are available, right? So they have got volume licenses, they have got bulk licenses, they have got different way of providing you licenses to a different customer. So they have a common tracker. I'm not sure if you have got access to Microsoft licensing portal. So they have centralized portal where you track what are the different number of licenses we are using for different customer, especially for Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. You cannot track it separately. So they have a integrated portal between the customer and Microsoft, where if you are logging into that volume licensing portal, you will get to see how many licenses we are using in on-prem, how many we are using in Azure platform, how many we are using in AWS globally. So there is a software assurance process which helps you to move the licenses from on-prem to cloud, or cloud to other cloud, or whatever. So there is some processes and portal that are available that will give you more clarity. But if you have not seen that before, it might be little tough to understand with theoretical explanation. But there is a separate portal that is available to track the volume licensing and the consumption from different customers.
Okay, so whatever we were moving with, we have a current license, everything will have extended security also. Can we consider in that way?
See, if you migrate an existing server running on Windows 2008 to Microsoft Azure, automatically you will continue to get security update for extended 3 years period. Okay, that is the information that Microsoft has released. So you don't have to do anything explicitly. If you're running it on Microsoft Azure, automatically you will continue to get the security updates through Microsoft Azure Update Manager or Patch Manager tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is almost getting complete. Coming to closure now. So maybe it might be available for next 1.5 years. But this was announced maybe when. See, the another tricky thing is, see, Windows 2008 and prior to that, everything was 32-bit platform, right? And like Windows 2008 R2, and after that, we only started getting 64-bit operating systems. So that is when. Um, they shifted completely from 32-bit architecture to 64-bit architecture for your operating system. So there were a lot of customers who were running applications on 32-bit on this 32-bit platform, and for them it was not very easy for them to convert it to a 64-bit platform because it needs a lot of re-platforming, re-architecture. Maybe there needs to be a lot of funding that has to happen to change their application code to be running on 64-bit platform. So this took more time because of the architectural change on the compute level. All the customers have to spend more money to change their application. So in order to support that, in order to give them 3 more extended years, Microsoft allowed for migration of 2008 workload. There are two advantages for them. One is that they have this their own product coming to cloud, and they also give additional updates, and also they give the customer 3 year extra time to change their application to 64-bit platform. Okay, this was the complete drastical change that happened in the compute architecture during this operating system. Into Windows 2008 R2 and above, everything is only 64-bit. So there is no 32-bit releases after that. So that's the reason Microsoft allowed for extra 3 years, but they might add 1 or 2 years extra, and they might give some buffer support. But this definitely gave a lot of customers, because there has been more than 1 billion active Windows 2008 licenses 2-3 years back, and most of the customers have already migrated to cloud, Azure cloud, and this was one of the important reasons. Okay, so yeah, coming to the other next point, we have got something called dual usage benefit. See, for example, if you're a customer and you want to kind of migrate to Microsoft Azure, you have got a Windows Server license or a database license. So what you can do is, with one license, you can run two servers, one in on-prem and one in Azure VM. Okay, which means you are not forfeiting their licensing strategy. Microsoft allows for 6 months. For 180 days, you can use only one license and run two different servers using the same license. And this is applicable only in Azure platform. And again, you definitely need to inform the software assurance process, but you have the time to do some POC or development or testing. They are giving you 6 months time to verify whether your applications are running fine in Microsoft Azure platform, and you don't have to purchase additional license. So this dual usage benefit of Microsoft licensing also boosted a lot of customers to choose Microsoft Azure. So for 180 days, you can run two instances, and after 180 days, you can actually decommission the on-premises system if the migration is successful, or if the testing is successful. You can completely decommission the on-prem infrastructure, or else you can again start from the scratch, and you can extend it for one more 180 days and start doing it. Okay, this is dual usage benefit. And also you have this hybrid benefit. Okay, so one tool can support on-premises system as well as the cloud system. So that is also a big advantage when it comes to hybrid benefit, right? So 17 language was something a old number. Okay, currently it is more than 25 plus languages, but I'll just limit the numbers. So 20 plus languages, meaning you can log into Azure portal in your own language and support. So it supports 20 plus languages, local languages. You can log in using Chinese Mandarin, or you can log in with Korean. You can log in with Spanish and manage the Azure portal in your own languages. Similarly, you can pay the consumption, whatever you are consuming every month, you can pay it in your local currency, Indian rupees or dollars, or you can pay it in your own local currencies after the consumption is done. So it also supports local currencies for paying your bill. Okay, and what else? So let me just highlight some of the key important points. So 5 times cheaper, 93 plus compliance offering, 68,000 partners, 98% Fortune 500 companies already using it. Bring your own
Stan,
license. Yeah, go ahead.
Stan sir, regarding that costlier stuff,
Mhm.
is if our end the services or database things, when we are moving from existing to either Amazon or Microsoft Azure cloud, then the cost variation will be there, or
Okay. So I'm talking about just lift and shift here. Okay, Giri. So we are just moving the operating system or the server from on-premises data center to Azure data center. We are not doing any kind of changes. We are not making any architectural changes, or we are not changing the platform. We are just moving the server as such from on-prem to the cloud. See, if you are converting the database to a different flavor like Amazon Linux or Oracle or whatever, then the pricing information that I have provided here might not be applicable. If you're just moving the Windows operating system and the database server as such from on-prem to the cloud, then it will be 5 times cheaper if you are moving it to Azure. So you have two options, right? I mean, you have multiple options. You can move your server to either AWS or Azure or GCP or Alibaba or whatever. So if you are moving that server as is to Microsoft Azure platform, directly it will be 5 times cheaper if you compare it with migrating to AWS. See, generally when you are moving things, you will do the total cost of ownership, right? So after migrating it, what might be my charges of this particular server or this particular database in AWS platform or Azure platform. So when you calculate that total cost of ownership, AWS will be 5 times costlier if you're moving the Microsoft Windows application workload or Microsoft SQL database workload to AWS platform. That is the comparison we have had here. So if you are planning to do some tinkering and you are doing some re-platforming, re-architecting, then this point will not be applicable there. Okay, this is for customers who would like to do a lift and shift. Just they want to move away from on-premises and they want to use new cloud platform. So moving it to Azure will be much cheaper for them if they are running Microsoft workload. Make sense?
yes, got it.
Okay. So let me delete this. Okay, so what else? Extended security support, 25 currencies. Okay, so the next important thing, since we talked about database, one more point came into my mind. So we have got a cloud interconnect between Microsoft and Oracle. Okay, so meaning globally, Microsoft Azure data centers and Oracle Cloud data centers, they are all interconnected using fiber channel interconnect, cloud interconnect. They are very highly dedicated cabling. They are a very high speed network infrastructure, which has got connection established between Microsoft Azure data center and Oracle data center. With this option, or with this particular enablement, you can run your front end on Microsoft and your back end on Oracle. Meaning, for example, you will have web servers running on Microsoft Windows, and you might have application servers running on um, Microsoft Windows, and you might be running some databases on Oracle. See, Oracle licensing is very complicated when it comes to a database licensing for running it on virtualization platform or cloud platform. They ask you how many core you are consuming, how many threads you are running, and all those things will account to the different licensing model. So here, what Microsoft has done is they have made a tie-up with Oracle, and they have got a cross cloud interconnect which will be seamless. You might feel like running the systems on the same data center. It has got a very high speed connectivity, fiber channel connection between these two data centers, and it is globally connected in all the regions. So which means you can seamlessly run front end workload in Microsoft and back end workload in Oracle data center, and you can also get the cheapest of pricing from Oracle if you're running the databases on their own cloud platform. You get it for 5 times or 8 times cheaper if you're running there. So that functionality is also there, especially on Microsoft Azure. If you're planning to run some front-end workload on Microsoft Azure, you can also have the back-end workload on Oracle data center. So that option is much better actually. And like every provider, Microsoft also releases 1,000+ new functionalities or new capabilities or new capabilities added every year or every 6 months. They add a lot of functionalities, so which means like they are future ready, and you get all the latest technologies or functionalities that you need for your application. So you get all those things. And yesterday, many people, when we started talking about disadvantages, everyone started telling like security and all those things, right? So there are a lot of cyber attacks. More than 20,000 cyber attacks are targeting the cloud workloads. And in order to tackle that, Microsoft is spending $1 billion, okay, per year on cybersecurity. So they've got some security specialists, cybersecurity specialists employed specifically to understand what is the trend on the attacks, like what are the different attacks happening, how to release a new bug fix for that. And there is a separate investment that has been done on cybersecurity from Microsoft just to tackle the cyber attacks. Okay, so definitely cloud is more vulnerable compared to your on-premises because it is open to internet. And in order to safeguard the customers, Microsoft is separately having a cybersecurity team. They have a security operations center, especially cybersecurity operations center, to counterattack the cyber attacks that we have got. Okay, one second, guys. Let me take some water. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so the next important point that we need to discuss is on the pricing aspect, right? So you have a lot of pricing discount options available from Microsoft. See, when you are a new customer, you want to do some testing or proof of concept, POC, or you want to do some development activities, you need not go and run it on the Microsoft Azure production platform. So they have got a separate portal where you can just go and run it on. Let me show you that. So you can just go and, okay, this is from last night class, right? Okay, let me just open up a new window. So there is a separate, sure, Madhukar, take care. Yeah. So Azure dev test pricing. So there is a separate pricing that is available for your development and testing workload. You need not go and run it on production Microsoft Azure platform, and that will incur you more cost. So if you are planning to do some development or testing or proof of concept, you can better run your workload with development and oh my God, okay, you can run it on dev test pricing so that you get it for significant cheaper price. Maybe it might be 60-70% discounted rate, and you can do with Microsoft support. Okay, they will also support you completely. Okay, so this is one advantage. And in any cloud, okay, not just Azure. Okay, if you're talking about cloud, okay, so the more you run, the cheaper it will become for you. For example, there are concepts called reservations. See, if you tell Microsoft or AWS that you are going to run systems or you are going to run virtual machines for 1 year, you will get a substantial discount. Similarly, if you are saying like I'm going to run this workload for 3 years, then they will give you much better discount. So the 1 year workload will be 60% cheaper than your regular pay-as-you-go workload. In general, we have the pay-as-you-go workload, right? So whatever you consume, you are going to pay for that. This is the general workload, pay-as-you-go workload. So it's the normal pricing model. Okay, and if you're going for reservation model, and you say that, see, in this model, you can create the server now and you can delete the server in next 10 minutes. Similarly, you can create the server now and you can delete it in next month or whatever. Whenever you want to create, you can create and delete. But this model is sustained usage model. You are going to run the workload in Azure platform for 1 year or 3 years so that you get better discount. Okay, so you'll get around 65% discount if you are going for 3 years subscription model, or if you're going for 1 year reservation model, you'll get much better discount. So this is based on your sustained usage. You'll get benefits. So this is not just in Microsoft Azure, even Amazon, Google, everyone provides this. So the important thing that you need to understand with reservations or reservation reserved VM, see, if you have told that you are going to run it for 3 years, and for example you are going to decommission that VM because your business is not doing good on that application and you want to remove that, there are two options. One, you can migrate that reservation to other application VM, or you have to pay the pro rata charges. See, for example, let me explain it in easier terms. If you're going and purchasing a loan, if you're going for pre-closure, there are some pre-closure or pro rata charges you have to pay and close that loan. Similarly here, you have went for 3 years reservation with Microsoft and you want to close the contract 1 year early. So you need not pay the complete 1 year charges, but there is a minimal charges called pro rata charges, which you need to pay and close the account with the reservation. Okay, so you need to understand those terms and conditions, and you can go for reservation to reduce the cost. Okay, similarly, there are a lot of benefits we'll get to understand more when we talk about virtual machines, and for different products and services there are a lot of discounted rates, so you can go for discounted options. I'll explain that when we discuss the specific tool sets or specific products and services. For now, just understand you need not run all the workload in their general platform. So for if you're running it for development and testing, you will get much better discount. If you're running it for some kind of long demanding workload, you can get even better discount. Okay, even Microsoft provide you dedicated server hardware, dedicated VM or dedicated server hardware is also available from Microsoft. For example, right. So for example, you might have some legal requirements that you cannot run the virtual machine on a shared basis. In general, all the server hardware, storage hardware in the cloud platform, it's shared between multiple customers. So some customer customer compliancy requirement does not allow them to run, or does not allow them to co-locate with other customer. In such cases, you can go for dedicated host also, meaning that particular server hardware is dedicated for running your virtual machines only. You can also go and get that dedicated host so that your virtual machines will be running on a dedicated hardware, but the pricing will be little higher. The reason is you are I mean, it's like purchasing a server in on-prem, right? Whether you use it or not use it, you have to pay the price for it. Similarly, in the cloud, if you're going for dedicated host, if you are consuming it to the fullest, then you can reap the revenue better. But if you're not using it properly, or if you're not consuming it properly, then you are losing revenue there. So, but this is mainly for meeting the legal compliance. Okay, that is the important thing you need to understand here. It meets the legal requirements for the customer that their virtual machine is running on a dedicated hardware and it is not co-located with other customer, but still you have the pricing aspect also. See, compliance comes first, then comes the costing or the other areas. Security is important for every customer. Okay, either they are any industry vertical, for them security is important. So you cannot just think only about cost. So the security comes first when it is when you're talking about compliancy and all those things. Okay, so any questions from anyone so far?
So Stan sir,
Yeah.
the dedicated host you are referring is like it will be running in a separate data center.
No, separate server hardware. See, I mean, if you want to run it in your own data center, or if you want to have your own version of cloud, then we talked about Azure Stack, right? This is the dedicated data center for organization. So you can have your own data center running Azure Stack, which will be dedicated for your applications
It's
and
like
services.
Stanley, it's like a private cloud.
This one is private cloud. Yeah, Azure Stack is like a private cloud, but what I'm talking here is dedicated hardware, dedicated server. Host means server
Okay.
hardware. So one
Okay.
that server hardware will only run VM from that customer. Okay, will run only VMs from XYZ customer. Okay, only those VMs from XYZ customer can be hosted on this dedicated host. See, there are some legal compliance that says that the server hardware should not run any other VM on the same hardware. For example, see, if you are running Mercedes VM on the same hardware and Volvo on the same hardware, customers are feeling that somehow they have the opportunity to get inside the other VM through the virtualization layer, so they can take advantage of any weaknesses, and they can get inside. So some industry vertical, they don't want to take that risk, so they want the hardware to be completely in control for the specific customer. So there are some compliancy requirement that says that. So because of that, they have to go for dedicated host. Dedicated host means we are just talking about the server hardware, not the complete data center. So I'll come to the Azure geographical presence, how the regions, geographies, and all those things are present. But now I'm just talking about dedicated host hardware for meeting some security requirements, for meeting some compliancy requirement. Okay.
Yes, sir. So basically, this is only for data privacy, and it will not impact the performance, right?
Mm,
Performance is
Okay,
same, right?
yeah, performance, you might get much better performance, I would say. See, if you're thinking, Basava, if you're thinking about data, okay, there are other things that you need to understand. See, for example, if you're talking about data residency restriction, for example, European organization, they want to be compliant with GDPR, right? So in such cases, you can just go with, let me help you with that. If you go and check, what do we call, I'll go to India portal only. If you go to global infrastructure, and if you go to data residency means we are talking about where the data can be stored, right? And for
Okay.
that, they have got some regulatory requirements. See, for example, they've got some GDPR requirements which can be met. So EDP is the GDPR, the sub processes, the data transfer. So in order to meet that, you have a lot of different ways how you can store your data in a secure way. Okay, this is a little different. I'm talking about at the VM level.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not
Okay.
talking about
Okay.
data
Got it.
storage level. So this is
Yeah. Got
different.
it.
Okay, but that's a good question. Okay, so for
Yeah.
data residency, Microsoft also takes care of your data to make sure that your data does not go out of a specific geography or a specific GDPR requirement says your data should not go out of the European region or a European organization. So in order to meet that, there are a lot of different options. So you can go through that in this portal about the GDPR. Okay. Similarly, if you
Thank
want
you.
to do some, no problem. So yeah, if you want to understand more about encryption or safeguarding your data, that is again a different topic. Okay, I can just help you with that. If you are talking about data encryption or security, yeah. Well, I'll answer this question. Yeah, you can go on mute. Yeah, maybe, and the fundamentals, and I'll say encryption. Okay, sorry. Fundamentals, security, Azure. Okay, possibly it might be moved to documentation, not in Azure. Yeah, so you can look at this particular data security and encryption documentation, how you can safeguard your data at rest or encrypt. So this is not more about server virtual machine level protection, but if you're talking about data, then you need to follow the data residency restriction and how we can encrypt the data to avoid any kind of potential attacks or whatever. Okay, so these two options are at the data level. So here, this is at the VM level. If you want to have segregation, or if you want to have isolation at the VM level, then dedicated host can be purchased and you can run the VM in a dedicated hardware and segregate them. Okay, so
Okay.
what else? Yeah, so let me
Stan,
go ahead.
I have two questions about this
Sure.
dedicated server hardware.
So when you
Yeah.
say dedicated host, so is it also including the dedicated storage and network, or just
You can,
host level?
it's mainly on the host level, okay, but you can definitely do some isolation there also. But primarily, we are talking about the server hardware level, not the backend network. Because if you are going for backend network dedication, then you get much better, I mean, more cost, and it's more like
Cost.
asking for a virtual private cloud in Azure platform. Okay, so
Got
this
it.
option,
Right.
you can go and create a dedicated host group, and you can provision the virtual machine on these server hardware. Okay, this might be dedicated only for your virtual machine, so that no other customers have the option to run their VMs on this dedicated host. There is an option when you are creating a VM, you can go and create a group. It's not, if you're going for one dedicated host, then it will be a single point of failure, right? So again, you have to create redundancy, or you have to create cluster of dedicated hardware, maybe 2 or 3, combine them together and create a group, and you will create a VM on that. Okay, so you have that specific option.
Okay.
Okay, so we call it as
And
dedicated host group. Yeah, go ahead.
right. So when we use the dedicated host,
Hmm.
do we come to know about the hardware specification as well, or that's going to
I
be
mean, there
just
has been a lot of questions around that. So, for example, some customer want to have access to ILO, and they, I mean, definitely, like as a customer, we would like to have more control, right? And we want to see what's happening and all those things. But to answer your question, no, we don't have control on the hardware level to check the BIOS and all those things. But if you want to get some settings, if you want to get some configuration details, they provide you options to get that details through WMIC, or they get you access to that. But they don't give you access at the server hardware level, like getting access to the BIOS, or getting access to the ILO. That is not yet permitted. Okay, in the future it might be allowed, but as on date, no, it's not allowed. Even though you own the hardware, only guarantee that you get is your virtual machine will, only your virtual machines will be running on that server hardware. They will not allow any other customer's virtual machine.
okay?
Okay,
All
let
right.
me mute that line. Yeah, thank you. So let me move on. Okay, there are a lot of other things that you can do. See, you can also go for capacity reservation, and there are some other concepts which we will discuss along with specific services and products. Okay, and let me go to the slide deck and see if I have missed anything. Okay, currencies, language, compliancy. Okay, these are all generic things. See, if some interviewer is looking for more things, you can say like, yeah, Azure is much speed, and you can quickly deploy services. You'll get to understand those. See, in the next 10 weeks, you are going to just discuss the advantages only, right? Again, whenever we touch a specific product or service, we are again going to touch the advantages. So, I mean, let's move on to the other topic, because we are already 1 hour. I mean, we have spent 1 hour on this alone. Okay, so if someone asks you why you need to choose Azure, these are the important point. You will also get to understand more points when we discuss certain products and services. Any questions before we move on to the Azure deployment model? Okay, I'll take that as no, and let's move on to Azure deployment model. When I say Azure deployment model, similar to the platform. See, don't compare it with the branding. Okay, initially they had this Windows Azure brand in 2010, and they changed the brand to Microsoft Azure in 2014. That is different. So branding is different, but the backend technology on how they created this infrastructure, or how they created their data center deployment framework is completely different. See, when they started it, they had something called ASM model, Azure Service Management Model. But I mean, this is a historical information. You don't have to really worry about it. This is, they call it as classic model. Okay, this is no more available for any new customer. Even the existing customers who used it has come away from that. They have migrated to ARM model already, but you just be aware of it. Okay, that there was another model that was available earlier in Azure platform. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'll spend only maybe five minutes here on this topic. So ARM model is the current model which is used for creating any resources in Azure platform. Earlier, we also had something called service management model, which was available for the customers before 2017 or 18. Now everyone has completely got migrated to ARM model. Okay, if someone asks you what is the platform model that we have got, the ARM model is the current one, and the biggest difference is the way that the integrations used to happen. Okay, in ASM model, the integrations were done using XML. It was very popular at that time. So whatever Microsoft creates, they used to create the integration APIs or REST APIs using XML. Now, in the cloud, in the modern world, many people have started using the templating languages like JSON or YAML or all those things. So JSON is very popular now for writing the APIs because it is very easy and human readable. And many people have started using the JavaScript object notation, this JSON language for writing the API. So in ARM, the integrations has been written in JSON language, which is very easy to modify or very easy to understand if in case you need to make some changes. So that is a very big difference. But other than that, so Microsoft branded this ASM portal as Red Dog portal, and similarly ARM portal, they call it as Ibiza portal. So there are some differences, branding names and all those things. And big changes that they made is in during the Windows Azure or during the Azure service management model, they used to have different portal. For example, if you are a system administrator, you have to log into manage.windowsazure.com to manage the Azure platform. If you are a developer, you need to log into develop.windowsazure.com and you need to develop the application code and all those things. Similarly, there used to be different portal for costing, for finance team, and so on. So they unified all these things to one single portal in Azure deployment model, Azure resource manager model. But whoever you are, like you are a C-class person, or you are a system administrator, or you are a developer, or you are a cloud ops administrator. So everyone, database admin, irrespective of your roles and responsibilities, you have to log into one single simplified portal. Okay, single sign-on portal. So that is the major change that they did in ARM model as compared to ASM model. ASM model had multiple different portal. You can log in and manage resources, and that is very tough, right? So for developers, one portal, and for operations team, one portal, it's going to be very tough. And they unified it. And the next important thing is in Azure resource manager model, they actually allowed you to create and manage resources individually. For example, in ASM model, if you want to run an application or if you want to run a web application, we call it as cloud service. Okay, if you go and create a cloud service, it will automatically create a VM, it will automatically create a virtual IP, it will automatically create a load balancer, and so on. So it will be created as a bundle. You cannot go and create a separate network interface, or you cannot go and create a separate disk, or you cannot go and create a separate load balancer. So the option that they used to provide, it's more like a hosting here, or right, they started their service in a different way. Okay, they visualized or they envisaged cloud in a different way, and they started providing services in a bundled option. Okay, now today in ARM portal or Azure Resource Manager, you can go and create individual resources separately. For example, if you want to create a network interface, you can create it. If you want to um, delete that resource, you can individually delete that particular resource. Resource means it can be anything. It can be a network interface, disk, or it can be a VM, it can be a load balancer. Anything can be created separately and managed separately. For example, if you go to the portal, you can find out the list of disks separately. You can manage disks separately. You can manage network interfaces separately. You can manage virtual machines separately. So each and every single things has been separated as a resource or a service. So you can manage things separately. You need not create unwanted resources, or you need not create it as a bundle. Okay, so earlier during the ASM days, Microsoft was only providing support for PowerShell to manage through the command line. If you want to make some command line changes, or if you want to do some automation or improvement or enhancement, the only option that was available in ASM model is through PowerShell. That again, it's a limitation, right? Now, if you ask me what are the different ways I can integrate with or I can talk to Azure portal, you can have Azure portal, you have Azure desktop application, you have got Azure mobile application. You can also manage Azure from mobile. You have got Azure CLI, you have got Azure PowerShell, you have got Azure Cloud Shell. So there are many ways you can manage Azure platform. Through command line, you have more than 3 options. Through graphical, you have got more than 3 options. So there are various ways you can go and develop, or you can go and connect with the different SDK options. But at the end, it is going to connect to your Azure Resource Manager module. Okay, so you can you have various options now. Earlier, we were limited to use only PowerShell to do any command line management, and here it's like much enhanced, and you have got a lot of different robust options. And there are many advantages I can keep on listing, okay, but you'll get to understand that you can lock a resource from avoiding any accidental deletions. Okay, so to avoid any accidental deletion or accidental modification, you can also lock a resource that was not available in ASM, accidental delete or modification. You can enable the resource lock. Similarly, you have got one another interesting concept called resource grouping. Okay, so resource group, I would say it's a container, or it's like a folder where you can store related resources together. Okay, meaning, for example, I've got an application, okay, the application XYZ, and for this application, I might have multiple systems. I might have a web server, I might have a app server, and I might have a database server, I might have some middleware server, and for this web server, I might have disk 0, disk 1, and I might have some 10 different network interface. So all these things are actually related to this application. And if I want to decommission this application, I can go and decommission or delete this resource group so that all the related resources can be decommissioned together. See, that's the problem. We also have it in VMware, right? See, if you talk about VMware, you have something called sprawling issue. Sprawling means unwanted resources occupying the space. So sprawling means, for example, you will decommission the server. Okay, server 1 will be decommissioned, but the disks of that particular server will still remain. So you might have 10 different disks, or you might have some RDM disk or whatever. And when you delete the server, you might delete 1 or 2 disks, but you will leave the other disk. It might be like 1 TB or 100 GB space. If you are continuing to leave the unwanted resources in the data store, it will occupy the space and you have to pay for it. Okay, especially in cloud, if you are leaving if you are just running, or if you are storing unwanted resources, it is going to cost you more. So you have to be very, very careful in the cloud space. So unlike your on-premises, you have purchased the storage, you have purchased the server, so you don't have to really worry about the sprawling. But in cloud, definitely it is a big issue, because you have to pay for whatever you are storing or whatever you are running in the cloud. So when you go and group the resources per application, or if you want to group the resources per services, when you commission it, you create it together. When you decommission it, you delete it together. So they all will have the same life cycle. They will have the same similar life cycle. So nothing is left out after the application is decommissioned. So you save a lot of cost. You have a lot of formalized processing in ARM model. This resource group concept was not there in ARM. Sorry, in ASM, as Azure Service Management. Okay, like this, there are a lot of good advantages. For example, if you want to do some resource tagging of like, for example, if you want to tag a resource, you want to say this resource belongs to this department and this business unit, this cost center, and this is the name of the resource, and this is the management team. This is the email ID that we need to reach if in case you want to make some changes to the resource. So tagging is very much possible in ARM model. So tagging wasn't available in ASM model. And similarly, like few points I'm listing down, I can list again 20 points as an advantage for ARM. So fine-grained access control, or role-based access control, or fine-grained policies was introduced in ARM. You can go and give permissions, access privileges to specific resources in ARM model. Okay, so and also, just as I said, ASM is already deprecated. Okay, we don't have to spend too much time here, but make sure you are aware of that. There were two different integration options, or two different SDK option from Azure. So one of them is already decommissioned. Current model is ARM model, and it is developed using JSON, and it has got a lot of advantages in this latest model. Okay, so any questions? I would take questions rather, like, instead of explaining just the advantages. Just want to at least list down 5-6 points so that if someone asks in the interview, you can at least uh, cover up something there.
Stan, this is Senthil.
Yeah. Yes, Sendal.
Stan, so ARM model is the one which is currently being used in Azure, right?
Correct.
Okay. So it's like, as you said, in ARM model we can create a separate resource, but so ASM so far it's not been used, or it's a separate still being used in in other model and all, or
Yeah, ASM model is no more there. So it used to be available as a classic model until 2018 or beginning of 19, but they have completely deprecated. Some customers who were running on ASM, they were also migrated to ARM in 2019 timeframe. So it's already closed down. The ASM model is no more there now. So if some people who has got experience of working with, if you are saying that I have been working with Azure for last 3-4 years, then you might have to be aware that we used to have a different model and we did some migration from ASM to ARM during 2017, 18, and 19 timelines. That's the only
okay,
reason I'm explaining this. Otherwise, this is not going to be part of the exam, or you don't have to worry really. Yeah.
okay. And also, like, since we are as a Azure administrator, so no need to much concentrate on Azure or ARM is running at the background, and we'll be working only on the resources creation, right? We no need to much
Correct. So
specifically work on
yeah,
ARM kind of thing.
yeah, you can think of ARM as a resource provider, and if you want to create some resources, or if you want to access the Azure virtualization layer or platform, the access is enabled through the ARM model, or the ARM is the integration provider. Okay, you will get to see that little deeper. See, if I
Okay.
want, yeah, I'll maybe quickly answer your question by showing it in graphically. If you have purchased a
Okay.
subscription in Azure, and if you go here, there are a lot of ARM providers or resource providers. So if I go to this resource provider option, so if you want to access or create some specific resources, for example, if you want to create an SQL virtual machine, or if you want to create some network components, you have to register it. So this registration happens through the ARM provider. Okay, so ARM is the provider through which you go and create the resources and access it. So it's a model. Okay, it's a kind of integration model written through JSON, through which you can
Okay.
go and ask for some resources and create, delete, or whatever action you want to do, you can do it. So think about ARM as a integration provider for creating and managing resources in Azure platform.
Okay. It's not something like console what we do. It's running in the background, so we cannot
Yeah,
visualize
correct,
this.
correct. So it is handled by Microsoft development team. So Microsoft has developed the integration API using JSON, and they manage it. We don't have control on changing it, or we don't have access to that. But
Okay. I
visually,
thought
like, you
it's
need to understand.
a
Yeah,
console.
correct. It's a kind of integration layer. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, sir.
coming, okay, we have
Hi,
got 5 minutes.
hi Stan.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Hi Stan, this is Chitra.
Yes, Chitra.
I have a basic clarification.
Yeah.
This is based on one real-time case study.
Okay.
Actually, I'm from a banking domain.
Hmm.
What we have faced one real-time challenges is for one client, we designed an hybrid kind of cloud platform. Okay,
Okay.
see, so the messages can be passed to and fro from one cloud to the another cloud. For example, we have designed payment hub is in one separate cloud, and we have
Hmm.
designed credit card division in a separate cloud. So
Hmm.
we have an option to uh, pass messages from this cloud to that one. So to and fro
Okay.
messages communication will be there. So whether we will cover up those kind of integration part, or from where I can explore a
Hmm.
better feasible option, what is the best method to do that integration for that kind of hybrid cloud.
Sure, sure. I'll explain that, Chitra. See, if you are looking at the design level, generally we go to azure.microsoft.com, and you go to specific industry. You mentioned that you are working for some financial organization, right? Always type financial or pharmaceutical, or which organization type you want to. And if it is within financial, if it is banking or capital market, you can just type that. You will get to have different use cases, different documentation, how different customer has implemented different real-time payment integrations, how they have interconnected with payment third-party payment portals. So all those documentations and stuffs will be available here. So you have different documentations for different industry vertical like manufacturing, automobile, and so on. So just go through that. It is more at the architectural level. Your question is little higher. So I generally cover some of those information in AZ 304 exam, where we talk about how to deploy solutions specific to some industry requirements. Okay, but here we are just starting with Azure, right? But you can refer this. Okay, this Excel document, you can use it as a reference for your further studies. If you are adding, if you are learning and adding more points, you can add more points. So for industry specific use cases or documentation, you can go and get it from this particular portal. For example, if I remove the industries, you will get a complete list of different industries that we have: government, financial, retail, energy, all those things, manufacturing. So you can get inside manufacturing and look at the different customers, how they have implemented in the manufacturing area. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Fine, Chitra.
Just
Yeah.
answer a
Any other
small
question?
doubt.
Yeah.
You mentioned on the graphical picture like the resource provider, and it is showing some network registered, which means it is a template that has to be registered, and for modification we write the JSON code over on a
Okay, so
deploying
Giridhar,
this network.
in simple you can understand this one like this. Okay, for example, if you want your customer to create some storage synchronization, or if you want to allow them to create resources on Dev Test Lab, you can register it. If you want to disallow creation of certain resources for your subscription or for your customer, you can go and unregister it so that they don't have the option to create resources. For example, if they want to create a data box, now it is not registered, but if you want them to be you want the customer to create data box, then you can register it and allow them. Okay, it's a mechanism on how you can disallow creation of specific products and resources through ARM provider.
Which means adding a new service.
Yeah, not adding a new service under a specific product. Yes. So yeah, see, compute is a specific provider, storage is a provider, network is a provider. So through compute you can create virtual machine, through network you can create virtual network, through storage you can create storage account. So through certain products you can create multiple different services, and if you want to kind of restrict them, you can kind of unregister or disallow from certain things to be created. So if you don't want hybrid network functionalities to be enabled, you can disallow it. But if you want to do it, you can register it, and they will allow it. See, the more you allow, the more APIs will be created. Okay, for your subscription, the more APIs will be allowed for your subscription. So this can be a mechanism to allow, disallow certain creation of resources also. Okay, it is not specifically intended for that, but you can also use that as a mechanism to restrict creation of certain resources. Okay, so I think, yeah, so we are already at 10:30 now, right? So I thought of starting with another small topic, but yeah, we'll take a small tea break, and we'll come back after 15 minutes. Any questions before I start the tea break?
Yeah, Stanley, one question.
Yeah, sure.
Like explain the basic part of the fundamental. So this all thing we can explain the like interview part about this kind of difference and ASM, ARM, and all this stuff.
Yeah. So these are all being listed because of the historical interview questions, right? So people will ask why you need to choose Azure, what are the advantages, and what are the different deployment models that we have. So definitely, like these are all also targeted towards interview, also not just for certification. Specifically, some interview. I'm listed 30 plus points here, but in the interview, you might not remember all 30, right? You might be able to recollect 5 or 10 points. So that's why we have got enough points here. And similarly, our Azure deployment model, I can list down more points, but the questions in the interview has reduced. So that's why I've listed only 10, 15 points here. So that you get to at least answer it without saying I don't know, or just for interview sake. Also, you can think I've explained that. Yes.
Okay, fine. And also the same way, like in the resource group we have mentioned.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, team, for joining back. We'll resume the session now. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's talk about the global infrastructure first. Let's understand how Azure physical infrastructure and network connection components are made up of, and then we'll move on to the creation of account and creation of subscription and so on. Okay, now as we have been highlighting since yesterday, that Azure is a global provider. Okay, so Microsoft has deployed a lot of data centers across the globe, and we have their infrastructure present everywhere. So you'll understand how the global infrastructure is present, and in other words, we will say how which are the geographical areas that Azure has got there present, and how they are providing services. Okay, so when we talk about geographical infrastructure, there are two important things, right? In order to have a data center, we need to have a physical infrastructure. Physical infrastructure comprises of server hardware, storage hardware, network devices, and connecting network components, right? These are the two important aspects that make up the global infrastructure for Microsoft. Okay, and if you want to get the list of data centers from any cloud providers, irrespective of, for example, Microsoft or Amazon or whoever, there is a portal where you can go and explore these details, which is called datacenterlocations.com. And within that, you can just type Microsoft Azure if you want to look only the data centers from Microsoft. Okay, and if you get inside that, you will get to see the complete list of computing infrastructure or cloud computing services provided by Microsoft in different location. So if you scroll down, this has the complete um, regional list and a kind of map that will show you where exactly their data centers are currently present. So now, if I click this, okay, let me close this one. Okay, you can see that there are a lot of data centers across the globe. If you look at India, in India itself, they have got 3 regions. So you need to understand what exactly is region, what exactly is geography, and where exactly their regions are present, and what are the new announced region, and what are the new availability zones that we are getting. Okay, so you can see that Azure has got their data center presence almost um, in all the data centers and in all the countries and regions, right? So let's explore this further. But if you want to understand where they are present and you want to get a complete view, you can go to datacenterlocations.com and you can look at the Azure data center locations. Okay, and even we have got Microsoft um, documentation itself to get the latest list, but this is across cloud provider, right? You get to understand the different details. So physically, I would say they have got 160 plus physical data centers across the globe. Okay, it might be a little more now. Okay, so 160 physical data centers across the globe, and they have been grouped or they have been combined together to form some key components. For example, the very first entity we call it as is geographies. Geographies is mainly for data residency requirement. When I say data residency requirement, if you go to Europe, okay, they actually want everyone to comply with GDPR requirement. GDPR is data protection requirement. The data should not go out of a specific country or a geography. In order to meet that data compliancy requirement, or in order to meet that data regulation standard, okay, Microsoft has introduced something called geographies. Okay, so this is mainly for data residency, regulation, sovereignty. You can use whatever term you want to, but it all refers to the compliancy and legal requirements or security requirements. So whatever data that you're storing in Azure data center in a specific geography, for no reason it will go beyond that particular geography. See, for example, I'll give you some example here. So South India is a region, Central India is a region, West India is a region. But if you want to tag it to the location, South India data center or region is in Chennai. Similarly, Central India, it's in Mumbai, and West India, it is in Pune. So combining these three forms the geography. If you are putting the primary copy in South India, for redundancy purpose, for high availability purpose, they will replicate the data to Central India. They will not replicate the data to Singapore or Southeast Asia because it is going outside of the geography. So if you are storing some important data that should not go beyond the geography, so Microsoft has grouped the regions into a concept called geography so that the data will be within that continent or within that particular country or within that particular for example, United Kingdom or US or India. So these are all grouped together to form a geography. Geography is mainly to maintain the data legal requirements. So to avoid the data from moving out of the particular boundary. This is to create a geographical boundary. Microsoft has logically grouped them together called geographies. Okay, this is a geographical boundary to store the data and make sure the data is within that particular region or particular geography. Then comes the next important thing called regions. Regions are a combination of multiple data centers. Okay, so there is two things. Okay, so I would say first I'll explain the region first. Region is collection of data centers. When I say collection of data centers, the data center one will be in maybe South Africa West, and the second data center might be in South Africa North. No, maybe like within South Africa North, we might have two data centers. Similarly, see in Central India, let us check one thing. I'll help you understand this little more further. Okay, if you look at let's talk about Central India. Central India, it's in Pune. South India, it's in Chennai. West India, it's in Mumbai, right? So let's go to Microsoft site only. Okay, so let's not use this. You can also refer this. Okay, this gives you information about different data centers from different service provider, not just Microsoft Azure. So this is a common site, but if you want to understand specifically from Microsoft, then go to their portal where you'll get the complete details of Azure. Okay, let me go to their global infrastructure. Okay, so if you look at here, these are the different locations. If I scroll down, they have grouped Asia Pacific, Australia, China, India, Indonesia, Japan. So these are the different geographies. If you go and select the geography, you will be able to understand what are the different region that are within that particular geography. So example, India is a geography, and UK is a geography, and similarly US is a geography. So you can see that there are multiple geographies, and within that you got multiple data centers, and also you will get to understand what is the location of each of those region. Okay, within Central India you might have more data centers, see, available with 3 zones, which means Central India has got 3 zones. Okay, 3 zones meaning zone can be considered as availability zone, or you can consider that as a data center also. Data center is equivalent to zone. Zone is equal to data center. Okay, some locations might have 3 data centers, some might have 6 data centers. It depends on location to location. For example, if I go to some other regions, for example, United States, I might have more regions, and within that region, I might have some lot of availability zones. Some might not have multiple availability zones. See, some of them are coming zone, and some are already available. So get to understand this. And one more important thing that you need to understand from this particular portal. For example, if you go to some of the locations, for example, let's talk about some different scenarios here. Okay, let me take China. And if you look at the conditions here, so it is available only for the organization with the business presence in China. Meaning, if you are a company running businesses in India, you cannot go and create resources in this particular Shanghai data center, which is China East. Okay, so there are some data center which are specific to some availability. Okay, it's not available to everyone, especially the China data centers. They are not available to everyone. So just understand that. Okay, you need to clearly understand where exactly we can go and create resources, whether it is open to everyone, or whether it's specific for some business companies, or it is specific to organization in a specific location. For example, if I take India, it will allow all the persons. Okay, it's for all the customers and partners, meaning it does not restrict anyone. So your headquarters might be in US, or it can be in UK, but still you will be able to go and create resources in India data centers. So that's the thing you need to understand. So you need to understand whether the region is available for every general public, or it's available only for a specific entity. Okay, so yeah, there are a lot of use cases like that. And one more thing, there are some exceptions. For example, India has got multiple region. So if you want to do some DR or data residency, so all the data is stored in India only. Okay, but this might not be applicable for all the regions. For example, if I take Brazil, or if I take any specific location for that case, let me go to um, okay, where exactly is Brazil? Okay, see, Brazil has got only one region. Okay, if I want to enable disaster recovery, for example, if something goes wrong in this particular region, I should have one more region to fail over, right? But in India, we have that option. So for example, if Central India wants to fail over, it can go to South India. Similarly, if South India wants to fail over, it can go to Central or West or whatever. So we have multiple regions to fail over within the particular region, sorry, within the particular geography. Whereas Brazil, for an example, it does not have multiple region in that particular geography. So if in case they want to do some,
Stancer, could you come again? I missed that point.
yeah, I'll explain that, Giri. So some geography does not have more regions. For example, if we take Brazil in South America, Brazil is in South America, right? So it does not have multiple regions. So for example, if Brazil South wants to fail over, it does not have any other region in Brazil to fail over. So you have option only to replicate to US. So some companies, for example, if you are talking to a customer in Brazil, for example, there are a lot of organization in Brazil, right? So if you're talking to organization called Vale, which is headquartered in Brazil, so you need to tell them that the Azure data center does not have multiple region in Brazil. So if they want to keep the data redundant, if they want to store the replicated data into another region, they have option to replicate only to the US, whether they are good with that, whether their organization standard allow to do that. So you need to understand these kind of specific things when you are talking to different customers from different locations. So Vale is nothing but a customer name from, it's a mining customer from Brazil. So just I'm giving some examples here. Similarly, in India, you don't have to worry about it, because if you want to have the primary copy in Chennai and your secondary copy in Mumbai, then you have multiple regions within the same geography. You can have the primary server in Chennai and the secondary server in Mumbai. So similarly, you can have the primary copy of data in Chennai and Mumbai, similarly vice versa. So that options are not available in all the use cases. So you need to understand how you can improve the availability, how you can have the data resistant, data residency. So here also you need to understand how the disaster recovery happens. Disaster recovery will go from one region in South America to another region in United States. This is something you need to kind of understand. See, for example, just understand this regional pairing thing also. Okay, if I go to regional pairing, Microsoft has got their own backbone network connecting multiple regions. See, for example, you cannot define this. It is defined by Microsoft themselves. Okay, so for example, if you're talking about Asia Pacific or India, if you are storing primary server in central India, the secondary copy should have to be in South India to have much better disaster recovery, because Mumbai and Chennai are more than 200 miles apart, right? So minimum, there should be some kind of geographical separation in terms of the land. For example, like you cannot achieve this in some of the countries. For example, Singapore is small by the geography, right? It is very small. If you are storing your primary copy in Singapore, then the secondary cannot be in Singapore. It has to be in some other region like Hong Kong or whatever. See, for example, here you can see primary copy in Hong Kong and the secondary copy is in Singapore. Similarly, vice versa. Okay, because these countries are very small, you cannot achieve the redundancy within the same geography. You have to go past the continental or country limitation to achieve the disaster recovery or redundancy purpose. Not all the locations have got redundancy. That's what I'm conveying here. So Brazil South, the secondary copy can be in South Central US, which is very close to South America. Okay, similarly, Brazil Southeast can replicate to Brazil South, but Brazil Southeast is upcoming. That's why there is a star here. Okay, it's not yet available, but it will be available in next 6 months to 1 year timeline. Okay, so these are all regional pairs, which is created by Microsoft itself. And you need to understand some of the important points here. For example, if you're talking to someone in Pune location, okay, so West India is Pune, right? If you're talking to someone in Pune, you need to tell them West India secondary region is South India, but South India secondary region is Central India. There is a kind of clause here. Okay, so Pune gets replicated to Chennai because Pune and Mumbai are very close by. You cannot have West India and Central India as a disaster. If something natural disaster happens, Mumbai and Pune might get impacted at the same time. But Mumbai and Chennai getting impacted is very less chance because Mumbai is in one side of the coast, and Mumbai is towards the Arabian Sea, right? And your Chennai is towards the Bay of Bengal. So not both the locations will not get impacted during the same monsoon or during a same natural disaster. It might not get impacted together. So you need to plan in such a way that Pune replicates to Chennai, and Chennai need not replicate to Pune because Mumbai is the headquarter. Mumbai has got 3 data centers. If you're replicating data to Mumbai, you might achieve much better resiliency or much better redundancy. So these are all design criterias, okay, but you can also understand certain things, okay, so that you can go through some of the documentations, and you can understand this data center is available for all the general public, or it is specific to some customers. And there are some community cloud that is also coming up. So when I say community cloud, if you scroll down, see, you might see certain things. For example, Malaysia announces its new region. Okay, there is a new data center coming in Malaysia. Similarly, if you move on to the right, not all the data centers are open for everyone. See, some data centers, see, for example, if you read this point, New Zealand is opening up a new data center in New Zealand location, but it's targeting the employment training. They want to kind of improve the employment opportunities within that country, and they want the data center to be used for the employment training. So New Zealand is investing along with Microsoft Azure to create a data center location, but their primary intention is to invest on employment training. Similarly, Italy is investing on certain things to improve their enterprise grade government infrastructure. Similarly, Polish government is implementing to improve their digital valley project. So there might be some contribution coming from the regional locations, and the primary chunk of the data center might be used for their educational purposes or government project or for some digitalization or some kind of things. Okay, you can understand that, and you can convey the same thing if you're talking to specific country people or specific locations. So go through the document clearly so that you understand which data center is intended for which purpose, and whether it is open for every general public, or it is limited to organizations in that particular location, or it is used for only educational purposes, what kind of SLA they provide. So all these things, as a solution architect, as a senior professional, you need to be aware of this. But as a beginner, as an associate level person, you just understand Microsoft has got data centers across the globe, and in some location they have got one data center. In some location they have got 2, 3, and more. Okay, that is the thing you need to understand. You need not worry about all these classifications which I am conveying. So region is a group of data center in a particular location, and they are interconnected using dedicated high speed capacity network infrastructure. This network infrastructure is deployed by Microsoft itself. Okay, Microsoft own network backbone. Okay, it is not third party. Microsoft themselves has got their own network cabling across the globe. See, if you look at here, there is a diagram which shows you how Microsoft has connected the entire globe. So whatever the cable lines that we are seeing here, it is all Microsoft own network cable. Okay, it's all fiber cable. They have covered almost 130,000 miles of fiber optic cable undersea as well as subsea also. Okay, so they have got their own cabling across the globe. So Microsoft is one of the top two uh, network connection provider. They have got fastest connectivity from your data center to the cloud at 100 Gbps speed. They give you an express route. Similarly, they have got 170 point of presence, which means if you have a data center somewhere here, you can go and connect to that Microsoft cabling connection at 170 locations. They have got some network point of presence where you can connect your data center to that particular network cabling, and you can start working along with Microsoft data centers. So the IP and the data will be within Microsoft cabling only. It is a private cabling across the globe. See, for example, in India alone, they have got multiple alternate connections. So there won't be single point of failure if you look at this diagram. So there are more than one ways they have interconnected it. They have connection through Delhi. They have got connection through different subsea options. They have got connection through undersea. So they have multiple route. Okay, for example, if the cabling on the like on the undersea fails, it will use the cabling through the other route. So they have got their own cabling infrastructure across the globe. They have got 180,000 fiber kilometers covered in this particular connection. So they have connection through the other way. See, there are connections coming from here. They have connection through other country. So Microsoft has got their own high-speed networking connections. So if you are replicating from Chennai to Mumbai data center, it goes through their own cabling. Okay, not by default, but you can utilize that by doing some routing and entries. But they have got their own high-speed connection, and Microsoft is the trusted network, and they have got the number one. I mean, they are number one in terms of distance coverage. Okay, so geographies is mainly for keeping your data safe in a particular location. Region is group of data center connected by Microsoft fiber cabling, so that they've got faster connection. Okay, the next term that you need to understand is availability zone. Availability zone, as I said, is a data center. Availability zone is nothing but a data center, a specific physical data center. Region is collection of data centers, but availability zone is a single physical data center. So with the single physical data center, what you get actually. So the data center will have its own independent power. It will have its own independent cooling system. It will have its own independent networking infrastructure. If something fails at the power, only this data center will be impacted. So some region might have more than one availability zone in that region. So for example, Mumbai has got 3 availability zone in Mumbai itself, which means, see, if you look at the diagram here, or if you look at, I'll see if I've got some examples quickly. Sorry, yeah, I have got some diagram. So if you look at this diagram, so these two, let me see. 1 second, guys, I'm just trying to see. Control F5. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is one of the aerial screenshot of one of the region from Microsoft. Okay, so if you look at here, there is a very high cabling, or sorry, very high wall that will differentiate the different availability zone. In, for example, in this particular picture, this might look, this is a region, okay, and it might have more than one availability zone. This is a complete separate data center connected to different power connections. It will have separate power in source, and it will have separate battery backup and generators and so on. Similarly, this is a separate data center, and it will have its own power, cooling, and network infrastructure. Similarly, they are building third availability zone here. So this particular thing is combined together as a region. In one region, we might have 1, 2, 3 availability zone. And similarly, some regions in AWS, they have got 6 availability zone also. So they might be very nearby, but they are all separated, even though there is a bomb blast or any natural disaster on this particular data center, there is a fencing or bracing that will avoid the impact of the destruction onto the other data center. They have done some technology to separate these data center. Even though there is some kind of disaster, it will not impact the other location. Okay, but still all three data center in a region can go down. Okay, so for that case, you need to replicate the data from one region to another region. So Chennai, Mumbai might have three availability zones like this, but all three availability zones going down is it might happen. Okay, definitely it's a possibility. Okay, and in order to avoid such impact, what they do is you replicate the data from Mumbai to Chennai, which is definitely beyond. It's in two different coasts and it's separated by a long distance, right? There won't be much impact in that case. So if you want to avoid regional failure, you need to replicate the data across region. But if you want to overcome a data center failure, you can replicate the data to another availability zone within the same region so that your data are much fast. See, if you are replicating the data between availability zone, it is synchronous replication, meaning there won't be any delay at all. But if you are replicating the data between regions, it is asynchronous replication. There will be small delay between the primary and secondary copy. So meaning you will have 2 or 3 minutes latency. The copy that you have in the primary might be having a small difference in the secondary. So it is asynchronous replication when you go between region replication. But if it is between availability zone in the same region, it's a synchronous replication. Whatever copy you have on the primary server will be exactly the same on the secondary server. So you need to understand those things. So Azure physical data centers, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Uh, just a clarification. So, in that could be the case, whether they have any, measurement provided about the RPO, RTO, or any kind of bandwidth, how much would be transferred over a period
Okay.
of time?
So yeah. So if you look at their documentation here, yeah, definitely there is documentation around how they kind of maintain the pad region and all those things. If you look at the data here, they give you some specific criteria. Physically, they are separated by at least 300 miles. Okay, number one. And I know your question is not only that. You are asking about how much RPO and RTO. It depends on latency calculation. See, for example, I'll tell you. Oh, may I know your name? I think your name is not properly listed for me.
Yeah, Bala here.
Bala. Okay, Bala. Sure. So if you look at here, there are a lot of sites that are available to help you with that particular RPO, RTO latency requirement. If you look for region to region latency, you can see how much RPO, RTO, or how much distance it takes, or how much millisecond it takes from one particular region to another region, so that you can see which two regions might be the suitable candidate. Okay, so there are a lot of tests, lot of options to get that data, but the primary criteria on how they separate the region is by the land distance, by the physical distance. They have the two regions. The two regions should have to be at least 300 miles apart to be a paired region. And they have their own highly connected or physically connected cabling. It's a fiber cabling, but it's not a metro connection. It's a fiber channel cabling between two different regions. But whatever connection between availability zone, it's a metro connection. It's a metro cluster. So to answer your question, just look at this site, what I'm pasting here. So this will give you a lot of idea around how much latency, how much time it takes, how you can decide what time it takes from your data center. Like for example, if you're working for a specific customer location, what exact speed it takes to reach that particular location. See, from my home, Chennai is 25 millisecond, Mumbai is 39 millisecond. So I can decide which data center might be better from my company location. Okay, I can do the same testing from my own location, and I can decide which might be my primary, secondary, and all those things. There are a lot of testing that is available using which you can decide primary, secondary, and all those things. But for now, you can refer to some documentations and information. There might be some documented evidences using Microsoft testing, but the basic thing that they give you is the land distance, the physical isolation. They don't guarantee you anything on the RTO, RPO. They don't guarantee you. Okay, but it is a much better speed. Okay, it might look like the same location. That's the level of speed that they give you. Okay, so
Must answer one more small doubt.
yeah.
You refer like the region has 3 availability zones. So resources will be shared across the 3 availability zone, right?
Yeah, so then see, whatever question that you ask about, it talks about availability, right? See, I'll just give you some quick view on that, Giri. Okay, so I'll explain more, but I'll start the topic. Okay, see, for example, if you have single virtual machine, the single VM, if it fails, the application will be completely impacted. Yes, right? And if you are storing this application, or if you're running the application on 2 different rack and 2 different server, okay, on 2 different physical server and 2 different physical network switch, you are increasing the redundancy. So when we increase the redundancy, definitely cost will increase. Okay, but
Sir, I'm asking about that dedicated host you referred now, sir. So from an availability zone, the dedicated zone's resources will be shared.
okay, so 1 minute, I don't know. So Hariharan has been dismissed from the session because of security violation. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so let me talk to him why what he did. Okay, so yeah, I'll come to that point. I think you're taking me to another question around dedicated host. I'll talk about availability. Okay, how to improve the availability and how to achieve higher SLA for your workload. I'll come to that point. Okay, shortly. But
Okay,
let me just
okay, sir.
continue and complete this part. Okay, so. Okay, where we were. We were talking about availability zone. Now, Bala, did I answer your question on the what you call? You asked about RTO, RPO,
Yes,
right?
yes,
RTO, RPO, it depends
yes,
on
yes.
case to case. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it is our responsibility that we have to come up with that specific RPO and RTO to the customer. So there is no
Understood. Yeah.
concernment provided from the Azure perspective. Okay, got
Correct.
it.
Yeah. True, right? See, if you think about Mumbai and Pune, it might be much faster. If you think about Chennai and
Yeah,
Mumbai, it might be little higher in latency, and you might be able to achieve
yeah,
lesser RTO there. So it depends. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah.
got it.
Okay, let me. Okay, let's talk about availability sets. Okay, availability sets are nothing but physical rack. Okay, you have heard about rack, right? Rack is a place where we go and mount the server, mount the storage devices, mount the network devices. So you'll have multiple racks. So each and every rack is called as availability set. See, for example, if you want to have a particular application running on multiple server, so if you are going and creating it on the same rack or same server, then if the rack goes down, or example, each and every rack will have its own top of the rack switch, network switch, to connect the servers to other switch or to external network. So you'll have servers, you'll have storage, you'll have network devices on each and every rack. So if you are running the application on 2 servers in the same rack, if this rack fails for power, or if there is a failure because of storage, the application will get impacted. So if you want to have 2 VMs running on 2 different server and 2 different rack, you can go and choose this availability set. Availability set is physically separated rack. So if there is a failure on the server, or if there is a failure on the storage, or if there is a failure on the network, or the power incoming to that rack, the application availability will not be impacted, because you are having 2 virtual machine running on 2 different servers on 2 different rack. So only if both the rack fails, then your availability will be impacted. So in order to improve the availability, you can have your services running on 2 different physical racks, so that it will have its own independent server, storage, network, and power in source, and so on. Okay. So availability set is rack, availability zone is physical data center, region is a group of data center, geographies is a group of regions. Okay, clear so far? Okay, how about paired region? What exactly paired region is all about? Okay, so paired region is a group of region, or it's a kind of combination of two regions done by Microsoft themselves to have dedicated high-speed network. Okay, so they have integrated two different region. For example, Chennai and Mumbai are integrated using a paired region concept. So it has got a dedicated high-capacity network infrastructure so that if there is some natural disaster or it can sustain any issues happening at the natural level, and you will be able to continue using your service at the regional level. Okay, if there is one region failure, your service will still be available because your secondary copy or secondary server will be running on a different geographical region. Okay, so okay, any questions so far on these 5 important concepts or 5 important
Yes, sir.
grouping? Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is Gopinath.
Yes, Gopi.
Yeah, if I in Chennai location, I have first copy will be there. Second copy will be in Pune. For the cost wise also it will included or what?
Yeah, so cost will not be different across the region. See, for example, in India geography, the cost is going to be the same. Either you are running it in Mumbai or Chennai or Pune, but the
Okay.
cost between the region will be different. For example, Singapore might be higher in cost because of the real estate and because of the back end, what we call the infrastructure. Because, like, see, the IT equipment cost is not the same in US and India. You might have purchased laptops in US, and you might have purchased laptops in India, which might be a little higher. So because of the manufacturing location or the raw materials, or so a lot of different factors are say IT equipment cost, real estate cost, and the support cost of the people. Okay, so a lot of things make up the cost for the region. Okay, so the regional cost might not be the same when you compare Singapore, London, UK, and US. Okay, sorry, US and India, but the cost within India should be ideally the same. If you have the primary copy in Chennai and the secondary copy in Mumbai, ideally it should be the same cost, but it will double up the cost because in order to achieve availability, you are having two servers running in two locations. So definitely it is double the cost. Okay, if you have one server, it is only one server cost. If you are having two servers running on two different rack, automatically the price will increase because we are running two operating systems. Two operating system license has to be procured. Two servers should have their own individual disk. So you are increasing the number of servers to improve the availability. See, for example, why we need to have, why we are talking about availability here. So it is nothing but the service level availability. So your application needs to be available to certain extent for the business to be sustainable. For example, if Microsoft is saying if you want 99% availability, you can achieve it with a single VM. But if you want like 99.99 of availability, then you need to have multiple servers to achieve that SLA. For example, with 99.99, so I'll just compare it with some downtime per week. Okay, in a week, with 99.99% of commitment, the services can go down only 1 minute in a week. Okay, similarly per month, the services can go only up to maybe like 5 minutes or close to 4.3 minutes, something equivalent to that. Similarly, per year, it can go only up to 50 minutes. I mean, it's an approximate number. Okay, it's exactly 52 or something like that. Okay, but I'm giving some approximate number. It is 4.32 or something like that. I don't have the numbers on top of my mind, but so if someone is committing to an SLA, to an availability, then you need to increase the number of servers running that application to provide that level of service. See, for example, if you are talking about 99.95, automatically the downtime can be more tolerable. For example, you can have 5 minutes downtime in a per week, okay, and per month you might have up to 20 minutes or 21 minutes downtime approximately, and similarly 4 hours of downtime in a year, and it keeps on increasing 99.90, 99.00. So based on your SLA agreement with the provider, you will your services, your application will be available this much amount of time. So your application might go down only 1 minute in a week. So which means if it goes beyond, I mean, if the downtime goes beyond this 1 minute, then Microsoft as a provider or the service provider organization has to provide remuneration, or like they have to pay the cost for the downtime, okay, associated with the downtime. So there is an SLA, means it is associated with how much downtime the application can accept. Okay, so based on that, you need to design the availability across multiple locations. See, if you want to have more availability, you can have multiple VMs running on multiple racks, which means even if the rack goes down, you will have another VM running on another rack. Similarly, you can have availability zones. Availability zone means they have two different data center. So first VM will be in data center 1, second VM will be in data center 2. So these are all multiple VM concept. What is equivalent to rack in Azure? Availability sets. Okay, so yeah, availability set. And if you want to have multiple VMs, then you have these options. So if you have multiple VMs running on two different rack, you can achieve 99.90. Similarly, if you have multiple VMs running on two different region, you can achieve 99.95. Similarly, if you are running multiple VMs on different regions, then you can achieve 99.99. So meaning, if you are running your services on two different racks, you will be able to achieve 99.90% SLA, meaning your services can go down only 10 minutes in a week, similarly like 40 minutes in a month, and something similar to that. Okay, it's just like kind of double. Okay, I'm not I mean it's not exact number, but it's close to that. It might be like 43 or 44 minutes, something like that, but it's very close. Okay, so in order to achieve more availability for your application, you definitely need to have more than one server, right? And if you have more than one server, if you are placing those servers in the same location, in the same data center in two different racks, then your availability can be up to 99.90. If you are keeping it in two different physical data centers, it improves, right? Because it has got its own cooling facility, it has got its own power facility, it has got its own independent network. So all these things are improving the availability. So it has got its own data center, has got its own independent network, independent cooling facility, independent power, and you can also have similarly like region, it will have completely physically isolated locations. Okay, so if you want to improve the availability, you need to place your resources in such a way that you achieve high availability. I think this was the question from someone, right? Girish or someone asked it. Anyways, let me just, yeah.
So, Suresh here.
Yeah,
I
Suresh.
have, we were talking about that different region, different cost. So the people may decide, they can all, suppose India is cheaper. So everyone may invest, they can decide to keep their data centers in India. Is it possible?
Okay, Suresh. Yeah, that's a good question. See, it all depends on the location, right? For example, you are currently working for an organization in Dubai, right? And you can definitely go and look at the pricing calculator and understand what exactly is the cost for me if I run a virtual machine in the UAE location, comparing it with running a machine in India location, right? See, for example, I can just go and say, I want to compare with UAE Central. So I'm going to run a VM in Dubai. So running a VM in Dubai cost me around $181. Similarly, the same exact VM, if I run it in East US, it might cost me $50 lesser. Okay, so but that doesn't mean that you need to always run the services in East US. See, for example, your customers is located in Dubai, not in US, right? For them,
Yes.
latency is the important thing. So if you are planning to run your services, so first thing comes the latency in order to choose the region. If you want to choose the region or choose the geography, you have to run the latency test. So it should be closer to your customer location, customer base. So, for example, if you are doing some POC or if you are doing some testing or development, then it is different, Suresh. For you can think about cost, you can think about reducing the testing fund and all those things. So if you are running in East US, you can save $50 per VM. If you need 50 VMs for that testing, you are saving directly $2,500 there itself, right? So that might be
Yeah.
a good scenario to reduce cost when you're doing some testing POC. That might be a best way. But if you are really talking about running a business for the end users in Dubai, they cannot connect to an application running in East US. The latency will increase and it will be very slow. So you need to choose the location for your application based on the customer end customer location. Okay, if your end customers are in Dubai, then you need to choose the UAE Central or UAE North, whichever is quicker for you. For example, I can go and say, I am going to test between UAE and these two locations. And between these two locations, which one will be quicker? For example, I'm going to test between UAE North and maybe possibly what else? I can just check something on East US. Okay, let me check the latency here. So if I scroll down, okay, let's see. So you can see that there is a huge difference here. Okay, let me add one more. It will take some time to grasp the data. Okay, so I mean, you got my answer, right, Suresh?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not about
Yeah.
the latency. Latency definitely plays an important aspect. Cost comes next. Okay, cost
Okay.
comparison can be done for reducing the cost for your testing or development. You cannot choose a location which is very far from your customer location. If you are supporting a customer who is in Dubai or Singapore, you need to choose the nearest data center so that they have quicker access to their application and service. Okay, in order to get that, you need to come and choose it from this screen. Okay, let me just refresh it. Okay, see if I look at the geography, see West India is 37 millisecond for me, and UAE is 88 millisecond for me, and East US is 238. See, just because UAE is $50 lesser for me, I cannot go and choose and run the services in East US. It will be very slow for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So you
Stan
need
sir,
to.
this is Keith.
Yeah. Hmm.
This is on see if we are creating a one server in one availability zone
Hmm.
and the redundant will be in another, will it
Hmm.
be graphically shown like in the central
Yeah.
India region?
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see it.
Will I
Yeah, we'll
able to?
practically see.
Okay.
I will practically see how to create servers in two availability set, two availability zone, how to keep them in, how to create a DR between two region, how to enable business continuity between two different region. Those things we'll see in practical. Okay, I'll show you how to create availability set, how to create availability zone, how to get more availability. Those things will be discussed, yes, in practical. Okay,
Okay.
so when we go and create the services, I'll show you how you can relate it and get it done. So let me help you with few more things. See, the biggest advantage of going with multiple servers, see, even if there is a virtual machine OS failure, your service will still run on the other server. Even if there is a host failure, the server hardware failure, your service will still be running on another server hardware in another rack. So these are the level of redundancy that you're getting. Even if there is an application issue on one of the server, the other server will still have the availability enabled. Even if there is a failure on the physical switch on that particular rack, you'll still continue to run your services. So yeah, with different solution, you can achieve more availability. And again, this all depends on the business owner, right? So the business owner or the application owner has to decide how much budget they have got. See, based on the budget, the SLA can be improved. See, without without budget for your application, you cannot achieve SLA. Not every application needs 100% uptime. Not every application needs 99.95% of availability. So business owner or application owner has to decide what level of availability they need. And based on that, you can go and decide how you want to create the number of VMs and how you want to place them. Whether you want to place it in 2 different rack or 2 different data center or 2 different region, it all depends on what the application end users or the application owner is demanding from you. Based on that, you can design.
And
Make
this
sense?
is Ravi.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Ravi.
Yeah. You explained about the latency, right? Is it for all locations in India? If I choose, say, West India, okay, if I choose India as my data center, so the latency across India will be the same or it will be different?
No, it will be different, right? See, then why they have data centers in different locations? For if you are running a business in maybe in Chennai, okay, for example, if you are running it in some seismic zone or some some ZZ zone in Chennai, then Chennai data center will have the closest latency. You need not run it in Pune or Mumbai. You will have to run it in the nearest proximity or with the less latency. Sometimes there are cases. Ravi. See, for example, if you are running your business in countryside of UK, okay. So for example, you have two options. You can run your services in London data center, or you can run it in Ireland data center. So London data center is generally 3-4 times costlier than Ireland data center because of the country currency and the location, the cooling infrastructure, and all those things, the real estate and all those things. Now the business owner has to check whether they are legally compliant, whether whether their business accepts to run their services on Ireland. Number one, if they are legally compliant, they can choose between London and Ireland now. If Ireland is cheaper and they offer, like for example, 110 millisecond and 120 millisecond, now cost comes cost is also factoring here. So cost is like for example $5. Here you're getting it for $2. Now the business owner can decide whether they can go for Ireland. So maybe because like there is not much difference in latency, and the pricing is 5 times cheaper, or at least like 2.5 times cheaper here. So that is where the challenges will come. Okay, even Suresh question was around the same thing, right? So like there are a lot of different factors: security, compliancy, network latency, cost, and the business user location. See, if the business users are working from London, then they have to go all the way to Ireland to connect. See, if the users are in countryside of UK, then it makes sense to choose Ireland. So we have to test down where exactly the customer data center is currently. If your customer data center is on the countryside of UK, then you can choose Ireland or London. If the customer data center is already in London, it makes more sense to choose London, just because of the latency requirement. If you are talking about reducing the cost, then you have the option to choose between different regions. Make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so coming back here. Okay, so yesterday during the end of the session, some people were interested in understanding the edge location, or they were trying to understand the content delivery concept, all those things, right? So if there are no questions on these things, I'll move on to that particular question. I mean, I'll answer that question now.
Hi, son. This is Kamal. I have
Yeah.
one question.
Yes, Kamal.
So, what happens if my VM got crashed and I don't have any replication? Can I able to recover the data?
I mean, I'll answer those during the respective classes. During the VM class, I'll help you with how to troubleshoot, how to restore, how to recover, what are the different options that we have. So those things I'll explain. So if you
Yeah,
have any
sure.
questions associated these ones, I'm ready to answer it right away.
Yes, is the DRM replication, it's a by default they are serving, or it's all based on demand of the project and the servers?
Yeah, so disaster recovery can be enabled if you have multiple VMs across multiple regions or multiple data center, right? So with one VM, by default, there is no disaster recovery feature enable. So disaster recovery is an optional feature. If you enable disaster recovery, it will replicate the data to another region and you will be able to utilize it. So disaster recovery is an optional feature, and it all depends on the business application. Whether the business application needs to be highly available, you can enable DR and replicate it to another region. It's an optional feature. It's not enabled by default.
Okay. Even the
Okay,
backup
but
also is an optional option, right?
yeah, backup is also optional, yes. But definitely we need backup, right, to meet certain RPO, RTO requirements from the end business users. We might have to restore the data if they need it. So definitely, it all depends. Again, everything is optional. Okay, even running a server in Azure is an optional thing, right? So yeah, taking a backup in Azure is an optional thing, but we should safeguard the data as much as possible. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Hi,
just.
Stan. This is Tamarai.
Hmm?
Hey,
Yeah, go ahead.
Bro, actually, my doubt is uh, generally when we studying in Azure, usually EVM will have three copies in
Mm.
three
Yeah.
locations.
Yes.
So is it based on that availability set and availability region, or if we don't choose that,
Mm-hmm.
or we can proceed without choosing it?
Mm-hmm.
Even though if we not choosing it, it will have three copies, or we
Yeah.
have to choose either this or that availability set or
Okay.
region.
Yeah. So the three copies that you are referring to is at the storage account level. See, if you are going and storing some data in Azure storage account, by default, it keeps three copies to improve the redundancies. But what we are talking about here is at the virtual machine level, the OS level. So we are having multiple servers for the business application. Here you are talking about the business data. You are talking just about the data storage. Okay, here I'm talking about the application redundancy. So I'm adding more servers to multiple servers for increasing the availability of my application. I'm talking about the front end. You're referring to the backend data storage here. So by default, if you go and store the data in Azure, it keeps three copies to improve the redundancy, to improve the availability. It is not an optional thing. It's a basic thing. You can increase up to 6 copies, or you can add more copies to improve redundancy at the data storage level. So here we are talking about the application hosting platform, or the front end.
Okay, bro, got it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, is it availability set and availability zone is optional, or we have to choose at least any one of it?
Optional. See, the very basic thing, you will start with only single VM, right? One VM you'll create.
Yes.
You'll create only one VM in default. So if you want to have more availability, you can go and create an availability set, and you can run two VMs in two different racks by selecting this availability set. Everything is optional. See, if you go here, you have to go and create it manually. So you have to go and create an availability set and group them. Similarly, you have to select the availability zone to improve it. Everything is a separate functionality. You have to create it and use it for running two or more VMs. This is to provide redundancy for your application.
Okay, bro, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Any other question?
Stanley, Abhijit here.
Yes, Abhijit.
Yeah, I have a question related to that paired region. So, is it an option that a company can take that paired region for more availability if one region is down, or it will come or by default?
Yeah, paired region is actually defined by default by Microsoft. Okay, defined by Microsoft. So they have they have taken certain criterias to define the grouping for the paired regions. Okay, so defined by Microsoft to group regions. So meaning, for example, if I am choosing Chennai as the primary location for my server, I cannot go and choose UK or Singapore as my alternate, because that does not fall under the pad region criteria. Pad region, it has got its own dedicated network cabling or infrastructure, so that it gives you much faster connectivity speed, and it actually have better SLA and better RPO, RTO. So if you are going with your own replication, for example, if you have one server, one set of customers in Chennai and another set of customers in UK, it's up to you to design the DR in such a way. But if you're going with Microsoft paired region, you get that high-speed network advantage. And also, if there is an extensive network outage, one region will not be impacted. I mean, both the regions will not be impacted at the same time. Okay, so I've muted your line just to avoid the background noise. So this is something which Microsoft have grouped together to provide you the advantage of high-speed connection and with better RPO and RTO. So if you go by Microsoft paired region concept, you will get the fastest DR setup. Okay, but if you can also decide your own primary and secondary, but you won't get any kind of support or guarantee from Microsoft, because you are going with your own business locations, and you are doing it on your own. Okay, you will get some kind of support, but not the paired region conceptual support. Okay,
so is there any document is available? What are the paired regions? The details.
Yes. I think I just showed it. Maybe you might have got reconnected, possibly. So these are the paired regions. So for Hong Kong, Singapore is the paired region. For Central India, Mumbai, Chennai is the paired region. For Pune, Chennai is the paired region. So this is all defined by Microsoft. It's a predefined listing.
Okay, thank you.
These are the regional pairs. Okay, I'll add that link here as well. Okay, so paired region, I'll add the link, copy this link. So it's predefined by Microsoft. Yeah. Okay, then. So let's talk about the other.
Stan, Karthik here, Stan. I have a question here. In this case, like the disaster recovery in terms of the availability set and so on, in case, you know, if one VM goes down, obviously it has to replicate with the other VM, either it could be the nearby rack or a nearby data center, right? So how the replication is happening between the VMs, whether it's cloning the same replica of your actual VM or?
Okay, so it depends on case to case. See, for example, the data gets replicated at the storage level, right? So we are just talking about the front-end systems. So storage level, you'll have multiple storage hardware in two different rack or two different data center, and the replication will be at the array level, at the storage level. Front-end is your servers. Okay, front-end you have multiple servers, and on the back end, it's the data that has to get replicated, or it has to get synchronized. So whenever you go and configure redundancy or grouping, you need to create a clustering concept so that the data gets replicated, or data gets synchronized with the secondary copy. So definitely, if you have more servers, so your end user request has to come to different servers, right? So you need to bring them together into a load balancer. Okay, you need to have a load balancer in front of them, and the load balancer will distribute the request to different systems on the back end. Okay, so we'll conceptually see all these implementations, and we'll understand practically. Okay, so definitely there is a storage level replication that happens, and it can be, if it is on the same data center, it can be one storage unit. But if it is between two different regions or two different data center, it can be two different physical storage getting replicated. Okay, so it's slightly different from how you are designing it. If you are designing it within the data center, the replication might be, only the servers will be connecting to the same storage. Again, it's a single point of failure. There will be a lot of questions coming up if I get into that part. Okay, so for now, see, that's why the availability percentage is different from each and every solution, right? So that's why you cannot achieve higher availability even though you have multiple servers in the same location. There is a single point of failure at the power level, or at the storage level, or at the network level. There are still chances of failure. That's why we are not able to achieve 99.99 if you are having two servers in two different availability set. So there are certain things that can go down. That's why we are having this level of downtime. Even though we are having the same two servers in two racks and two servers in two different physical location, it gives you more availability. Reason is we are having more redundancy at the network level, storage level, at the power, cooling, everything is getting redundant. You are having more components. I mean, you can tolerate more component failure there. Okay, so I think
Okay, sure.
we're already,
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about a few more the Microsoft Global Network. I already explained that Microsoft has got their own WAN network, and it is a global WAN where they have interconnected all the devices, and they have something called point of presence or POP location. Okay, this is nothing but a location. It's a kind of network room or a network location where we can connect our data centers. So you can go and connect our data centers to Microsoft point of present. So once we connect that, you will start connecting to other regions through their own backbones. I just showed you that, right? So where exactly that picture is. So they've got around 170 global network POPs. See, for example, if you have some data center in Chennai, you can connect to the nearby point of presence location. This is they call it as different names. Okay, they call it as edge location. They call it as cloud front in AWS. Okay, it's one location just before the cloud data center. Okay, it's cloud front. Okay, one location before the cloud data center. So some people call it as cloud front, some people call it as point of presence, some people call it as edge location, even some people call it as CDN location, content delivery location. So where you get faster access to the data through that particular network. So how they are achieving it, they will have a network room. It's not a kind of data center, it's a kind of server room or network room where they will have some kind of storage to store the cached data, and they will have some WAN appliances to improve the connectivity speed, to do some caching, to perform some kind of if you are accessing data frequently, then those data can be delivered from the content delivery network. So it will be accessed quickly, just like you are accessing it from your next server. Okay, so there are some network appliances, network storage appliances that will be put up on this network location to improve the speed of access to the data. So whatever data that you're frequently accessing, it will not come from the actual Azure data center. Instead, it will come from the nearest point of presence or content delivery network. So the most frequently accessed data, it will be cached up on that particular location and you will be able to access it. So Microsoft has got a lot of access point. So some people call it as point of presence, some people call it as access point, through which you can access the data or you can connect to the Microsoft data center in a quicker way. Okay, so this is a location where you can connect as well as you can improve the speed of accessing the data. Okay, it's multi-purpose. One, you can connect to Microsoft Global Network, number one. Number two, you can also use that edge location to catch the frequently accessed data so that your frequently accessed data are getting delivered in a less latency. Okay, and this is little different from edge zone and regional network gateway. There are a couple of more concepts, but I don't want to confuse you now. Okay, so let's not get too deeper because these are all design things. Okay, so Azure regional network gateways, I'll try to explain it during our network class, but let's not take too much of intakes today. Okay, so we need to understand these things. Okay, we need to understand geographies, regions, availability zone, availability set, and point of presence. These are the 5 important concepts that you need to be aware of when it comes to geographical presence, how Azure has set up their global data center. Okay, and definitely, like, there are some fancy numbers that you need to be aware of. There are some 60 plus regions. There are some I mean, you can access it from 170 point of presence locations. There are customers accessing it already from 150 plus countries. Okay, even though they have got only 60 regions, it's not that only those people will be accessing it. For example, in the map, you don't have customers in you don't have data centers in Nigeria or other locations, but still they will be connecting to the nearest data center, either UAE or Brazil, South Africa or whatever nearest data centers, right? So still those countries are still accessing Azure, but even though they don't have data centers in their own country, still they are utilizing the Azure concept. That's why we are seeing more countries accessing compared to the number of regions. Okay, so any specific questions from anyone? Yeah.
So if that is the case, actually, point of presence. So it's good to have some static content, right? So instead of dynamic pages. So
You mean to say, yeah. So see, the use case of the point of presence is more towards the content, right? Again a content delivery network. Not all contents can be cached and delivered. So if you are catching some of those contents, then it makes more confusion for the business. So this is designed in such a way that the contents that can be cached will be cached here. So it's not that we have to redefine our business to utilize this functionality. If possible, we can do it, but it's not a mandate to change our business strategy.
okay, maybe because actually, if it is a global location, so this will
Yeah.
be useful, right?
Yeah, if it is a
For
global location, yeah, that is true. That is very much true. So if you have some global customers, if you want someone to be accessing data from a specific country where Azure data center is not there, but you still have the point of presence, then yeah, you can enable caching in that particular location, and they will be able to access the data in a much quicker way. Okay, so with that, maybe let's cover a couple of more options. I mean, one more topic. We cannot get into the Azure account creation today. We'll discuss that on next Saturday, but I'll cover the support plan because we have got only 15 more minutes. Yeah, any questions on geographical presence? I know we had enough conversations, but still I'm just asking before I move on to subscription.
no,
I'm
no,
seeing
just
some
one question.
questions.
So
Yeah.
does it require storage to be attached or some common storage to be there? Because we cannot, as you said, not much data we can use it for this. So is something like storage to be attached, like
Yeah. So,
it should get from there?
yeah, Satish, there are two concepts. Okay. So there is concept called managed disk and unmanaged disk. So if you're going for managed disk, the 3 copies will be stored in 3 different physical storage unit. Okay. So which means you have physical separation on the storage level, storage hardware level. So your data will be put into 3 different physical storage, not 3 different disk. Okay, it's put into 3 different physical storage level if you are creating managed disk and attaching it to the VM. So those concepts will cover, even though we have just touched only the front end, we will also have to discuss on how we can improve the availability on the backend storage, how to improve the network connectivity, how to safeguard, how to secure the network, how to encrypt the data when it is traveling to the network. So all those things will be discussed during the appropriate classes. But yeah, it's a very good question. So on the back end, we also need to make sure that our data is redundant across 3 storage units. So how we can achieve it? We have to go and create a managed disk, which will have 3 copies scattered across 3 physical storage units. We'll see how to do that, how to integrate that. Let me answer a few more questions on the chat. Kamal has asked, is it like in Azure, they will create only one VM, one from one? No. It's not like that. See, the physical servers that we have in Azure platform, it might be very high-end servers. Okay, it might have 64 CPU, and when I say 64 CPU, it might be virtual CPU, and you might have 1 TB memory and so on. So based on the capacity of the hardware, it will run multiple VMs. So only if you are explicitly asking for dedicated host, you will have dedicated VMs running on the dedicated host. And again, it's not only one VM. These are all VMs pertaining to a specific customer. A specific organization's VM will be running on the dedicated host. Mostly unless it is an SAP server or an SAP database server, which is very high-end server, there are exceptional. There might be some exceptions where one hardware might have only 1 or 2 VMs, but otherwise it will have more than 10-15 VMs in all the different Azure hosts. Okay, it's not one-to-one mapping. So next question, if the VM created in Azure not failed for some reason, okay, the VM created in Azure, okay, I'll answer those virtual machine related question later, Guna. Okay, so yeah, any other questions before we talk Azure support plan?
Thank you,
Yes.
Stanley.
No problem, Guna. Yeah, let me cover up the support plan and the subscriptions now. See, when you have decided that you are going to run your services on Azure. Okay, so in order to run your services on Azure, the very first thing you need to go and purchase a subscription. you need to go and choose a support plan. See, for example, you have chosen a network provider. Okay, so in a network provider, you have chosen that whether you want to go for prepaid or postpaid, and what level of plan you need, whether you are planning to spend this much amount of voice, messages, data, all those things. You will have something based on your business requirement or based on your personal requirement. You will have to choose the support plan. You need to choose the support model, whether you need dedicated support or you want some less cost support, and whether you want 24/7 support. Like these things you will decide even if you're going and choosing a telecom provider, right? If you're going and purchasing a plan, you will understand what exactly that plan is going to provide, whether they are going to give you phone support or whether they are going to assign a technical representative for yourself. And see, for example, automatically if you're going and choosing 500 rupees plan, you will get certain number of SMS or certain number of voice, certain amount of data free of cost. And on top of that, you will have to pay for the additional consumption, right? That is the basic support plan. Similarly, if you are going for 2,000 or 3,000 rupees telecom plan or mobile network plan, you will actually get dedicated support. Some person will call you and say, I am the dedicated technical representative for you. If you are having some challenges with our service, please reach out to my number, and they will give you some more benefits. They will give you additional data, and they will give you roaming facilities. They will give you a lot of features and functionalities. So based on the support plan, you go and decide it. Similarly, when you're going and creating a subscription in Azure platform, there are variety of options available. They have given you a basic option, they have given you a developer plan, and similarly, they have given you standard plan and professional direct and premier plan. So these are the 5 different plans that Microsoft provides as part of Azure subscription. Okay, so if you want to go for if you are just starting your business, and if you are just planning to do some kind of uh, testing or proof of concept, POC means proof of concept, right? So I have been using this term multiple times. I'll just capture it. So if you want to verify whether your application is suitable to run on cloud, you are just doing a development or proof of concept testing, you can choose the basic plan. It's more of a free tier plan, okay, where you don't have to pay for the resources that you consume, but you are already in development stage. You have already started developing your application, and you might need some kind of support from Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Azure support resources. So you can go and choose developer plan for that. So basic plan is free of cost, but developer plan, you have to, if you want to have developer support, then you have to go and choose developer plan, and developer plan definitely will cost you. Okay, see, the important aspect everyone will ask about is the cost of these services, right? See, if you're talking about Indian currency, this is somewhere close to 2,000 rupees per month, 1,900 rupees approximately. Okay, and similarly, standard will cost you around 6,700 or 7,000 rupees per month. Okay, similarly, professional direct, it will cost you around 60,000, 66,000 or 70,000 INR per month. And this one is depends on the features that you select. Depends on the selection. Okay, so you have got multiple different plans. I can also convert this. Okay, see, for example, this is $100. This is yeah, this one is $100. This one is $1,000. This one is somewhere close to $29, $30. So 30, 100, 1,000 USD. Okay, maybe I can just put that. It will be better to have it in US. Okay, this is the 100 rupees plan. This is not 100 rupees, it's $1,000, $100. Okay, and it starts with $15,000. So these are the plans that we have got per month. Okay, these are all per month. Okay, I've just given it in 2 different currencies. Majority of the people have joined from India, right? So I've given it in Indian rupees and the US dollars. Okay, so based on the workload, so if you have some development stage workload, you have created some servers and load balancers which you are using it for development purpose, and it is non-production, right? It's not a production workload. For any trial or any non-production workload, you can actually go and choose choose developer plan. So the from the name itself you can understand, right? If you are going and choosing a plan and you are paying for something, you will get support from them. Okay, when I say support, for free tier, you can raise cases only for two things. One is, if you are not able to log into your Azure account, you can raise a support case. And if you are not able to, I mean, if you have got some billing by mistake, you can raise a case and get some support. Only if you are not able to log into account, and if you're not able to, I mean, if you're getting some billing issues, you can raise a case with basic plan. But with developer, you have started running some workload which is aligned to your business. So what you can do is you can actually get technical support. Maybe I'll do this. I'll capture maybe 2 or 3 line items for tech support. Okay, so only technical support is available for account related issues, account login related issues, and the billing related issues. Here with developer plan, you can actually raise a email request, or you can have a chat support. You can have unlimited cases raised for your support. Here you cannot raise a case. You can only write email, or you can raise a case for these two issues. But here you can also raise a case if your virtual machine is not performing well, or if there is any issues with your API, or if there is issue with your load balancer, you can raise a support case here. And you have got access for unlimited cases, and you can allow multiple peoples to raise a case. Okay, so the difference between these two is that, okay, so you get severity assigned here. Okay, most of you have worked on IT environment, right? So in IT environment, we have priority for each and every case. We call it as P1, P2, or Sev A, Sev B, Sev C. So severity C means it's a priority 3 case. Okay, so P3 case, priority 3 case, it's like they will respond back to you in less than 8 business hours. Okay, meaning if you are raising a case, if you are writing an email to them, they will respond back for this particular case in less than 8 business hours. So this is very important, right? Business hours. Business hours means if your business is operating from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. in that region, in that location, if you are raising a case at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then you have to wait until 12 o'clock next day, because your business hours is only from 9 to 6. Okay, so you have to wait until 8 business hours until you get a response from them. So similarly for standard is mainly intended for production workload. So if you are running some production servers, then you need better support. So in developer plan, you can raise only priority 3 case or priority 3 ticket. So priority 3 ticket means it's a minimal business impact, because it's not used by the business yet. We are still in development phase. We are only developers are relying upon this, but still, if developers are waiting without any productive work, then business will definitely get impacted. But it's not end users getting impacted. It's not direct revenue impact to the business. But here, if you are running production business, this is going to be a kind of business impact. So you can go and raise severity A ticket, or you can raise a severity B ticket based on your impact level. You can raise P1, P2, or P3 ticket. So for P1, they will respond back less than a hour. Okay, it's not business hours, it's less than 1 hour, it's 24/7. And similarly, if it is a severity B, they will respond back within 4 hours. It's not business hours, it's 4 hours. For severity C, it is again 8 business hours. Okay, only for severity C, it's business hours. Otherwise, it's severity A and B, it's 1 hour, 4 hours, irrespective of the time. For example, even if your service is down during midnight 10 o'clock, they should respond back before 11 o'clock. Okay, so this is just hours. If you are seeing a word business hour, that means it is aligned to their local business time. So the reason I say that, different country have different working hours. For example, Japan's working hour might be from different time to time. So in North America, business hours are considered from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, in Japan, the working hours are considered from maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. So it depends on region to region. So region to region, you need to understand what is the working hours in that particular, I mean, what is the business hours defined in their local country. Okay, so you need to align with that. So so if you are having production, go ahead.
So if I would say raise a P1, okay, So whichever data center or whichever support center is active at that time, I will get support from that particular support center, right? So I will not
Yeah,
get a
it is.
US engineer compared to a Japan location or a Singapore location engineer, right?
Yeah,
So
that
that's
is
what
true.
it
The
means.
support engineer support is follow the sun model. Yeah, whoever is available, whichever support entity is online and supporting, they will give you support. But it depends on case to case. Can I know your name? I mean, it's
Yeah,
listed
this
as
is Ravi. This is Ravi Shankar. Ravi
oh,
Shankar.
Ravi. Yeah, you said Ravi, right? So I'll help you
Yeah.
with that support
Okay.
concept. See, give me a minute. So here,
Okay.
like let's talk about the support specifically. See, if you're talking about Premier, Professional, Direct, and Standard, see, you have raised a P1 case in Standard. So you have raised a Premier support case in Premier model. You have raised a P1 case. So here, what they will give you is they will give you a technical account manager dedicated to your organization. They call it as TAM, and we have a global account manager. If things are not getting addressed, you can escalate it to global account manager, and this person is dedicated to your organization. So anytime if there is delay in SLA, or if they are not responding back in 1 hour or 4 hours based on your severity case, you can call this person and they will give you the phone number. He is available for any support for your organization. And irrespective of that, you get customer specific support group, meaning if you are if the premier support is for manufacturing, if the premier support is for financial industry, these support group resources are certified in that particular industry vertical. Okay, so they are all dedicated, trained, certified individuals for premier support. For professional support, you won't get the same level of support. Instead of technical account manager, you will get pro direct delivery managers, meaning they are all shift managers. Whoever is available in that shift, that particular pro direct delivery manager will attend the call and will handle the escalation. So it's not a dedicated technical account manager. That's why you are seeing a very high cost here. Okay, 15,000 rupees. And besides that, you will also get designated technical architect assigned for different purposes, for sales, for solutioning, for any kind of reviews. You'll have a dedicated technical architect who will be there for your premier support. And you also get a lot of additional extra thing. Okay, you'll get Azure engineering team led webinars, seminars directed to your organization. You'll get Azure event management. You can go and attend it. So you get a lot of free things here because you are already paying 15,000 rupees. $15,000. You are getting a lot of focus support. Here, it's a kind of leveraged team that will support you. Okay, it's a leveraged support group will be supporting you. Here, it's a dedicated support group. Okay, so if I answer your question, so for standard, yeah, there will be some support engineer who, whichever time zone you are raising a case, whoever is online, they will be supporting it from global locations. But if you're talking about professional, direct, and premier, the support category will be much better. Did I answer you? Okay, let me also check the question from chat. Yeah, sure, Ravi. If you can, okay, could you please explain one or more time for, okay, edge location, I'll explain, Satya. Okay, fine. Okay. So here, let's continue to and continue on this topic and complete it. See, if you want some architectural guidance, you will get architectural guidance in Premier support. Okay, for example, if you want to design an application in Azure platform, and if you want to follow some well architected guidance, or if you want to have best practices, all those things, then in professional direct and premier support, you will get support for those things. Okay, architectural guidance, well architected reviews, and best practices, you'll get support. But here in standard support and all, you will get only general guidance. Okay, general guidance is available for everyone. Okay, for developer also, I think it's available for developer, standard, professional direct, even Premier also will get the general guidance. General guidance means general support. So you can just log in a case and ask whether these two services can integrate it, whether there is an existing API. So all those general questions can be addressed. But if you are specifically running a project, or if you are specifically migrating a workload, you get architectural guidance on Premier and professional direct. And see here, with Premier, you also have one more category where they will get you will get response from rapid response recovery team, okay, which is 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, the RRT team, or they call it as Azure Rapid Response Team, will answer your question. If you are raising some what do you call business impact mission, this year we are talking about mission critical workload, right? In professional direct and Premier, we are going to run some business critical application or workloads, meaning even though it's production, it's very highly dependent on that particular service or application. Your business is highly relying on that. So for such downtimes, there might be substantial business impact or substantial cost impact. So you will get 15 minutes. So all these are applicable here also. Okay, you will have P1, P2, P3 in professional direct. You will get you'll have in what we call in Premier. But I think in okay, so there are some time difference, but for severity B, you get 2 hours, I think, in Premier. But don't quote my name this, especially on this one alone. Okay, but you have additional support called rapid response support, which is available in Premier concept. And also you get a lot of additional benefits, okay, like Azure advisor support. So you can ask an architect from Microsoft to look at your environment and help you with some optimization opportunities, or some performance improvement opportunities, or some recommendation where you can go and improve your existing setup. Okay, that kind of supports performance tuning, design review, what we call performance tuning, performance recommendation, cost saving recommendation, security recommendation. So all those kind of things can be made available from Premier support and professional direct support. So this is like business critical or mission critical workload will be running here in okay, and here it is mission critical as well. Okay, the decision point will be on the costing here. So whether you need to go for professional direct and Premier, even Microsoft has given a specific option. You can go for professional direct and select some of the specific options from the Premier. You can pay specifically for that. If you want some configuration guidance or troubleshooting or interoperability guidance, you can also request for that. Okay, so for some interoperability between some APIs or ServiceNow or Remedy or whatever it is, or if you want to get some configuration guidance, all those things can be made available. Okay, so all these are 24/7 support, starting from developer plan. All these are 24/7 support for subscription billing, for lot of things. Okay, so you get a lot of advantages if you go for professional direct and Premier. You get a lot of white paper access. You can participate in a lot of blogs. You get a lot of access to support forums. So a lot of benefits are there if you go for professional direct and Premier. So based on your business requirement, you can go and purchase the business plan and you can utilize it. I'll show you how to check this, how to create an account, how to create a subscription, all those things on next Saturday. Okay, since we are already 5 minutes late, I'm just completing this topic. Any questions on this comparison on the different support plans that is available? Okay, I'll
Stan?
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So the support cost is with respect to whatever the infrastructure, right? I mean, the services we get. This is completely just for the support, the technical support.
Correct. So this is mainly for the cases, support cases, and mainly for the contacts and the people. Yes, and whatever resources you are running, that is additional cost. But you might get some freebies there. For example, see, if you are talking about telecom plan, see, ideally you are going and paying 500 rupees for the plan, but that 500 rupees might also cover some level of voice messages or data or some kind of SMS or whatever, right? So in this plan, you might get some freebies. Okay, it does cover some certain resources also, but they are not going. You cannot quote it and get it claimed, but you have some kind of coverage on the actual resources also. Certain things will be available, made available free of cost for you based on your plan.
Okay, all right. So
yeah.
based on the plan, the
Mhm.
resources availability, I mean the freebies, you mean, right?
Yeah, the certain free products and services might be made available based on the plan that you have purchased. Yes, true. So
But it's
coming to
not.
the yeah,
So
it's not
it's not
something
the services which we opt, right?
yeah,
Whatever
this
the
cost is
services.
mainly for getting the necessary level of support for your support issues or troubleshooting, or if you want to have some support engineers available via email or phone call. See here, you can call them also. Okay, you have phone support, you have email support, you have chat support. You can ask them to come in different format. You can also ask them to create a group call, or you can ask them to create a chime call or whatever Teams call to get support on the resources, on the issue that you are facing. So because you are already running production environment here, this is mainly for development QA, this is for prod environment, and I've already typed it here, sorry. Yeah, so you have different means of support. You can just conversate through email with some support case number. You can ask, you can have a phone call with them, you can have a chat support, you can have a Teams call. Yeah, there are different medium through which you'll get guidance. Okay, so based on the plan, so we are talking about only the support model here, only the support plan. So the resource cost is completely different. See, because for example, one company paying 66,000 may have 100 servers. One company paying 60,000 might have 500 servers or 1,000 servers. So that doesn't get included in the cost here. But there might be some kind of discounts that will be made available if you're going for this plan. Certain resources will be available for discounted prices, case to case.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So the next, can I come?
Kindly, Abhijit,
Yeah. Yes, Abhijit.
actually, related to that standard plan, it's like Save A and Save B tickets, they are supporting 1 hour and 4 hours respectively. I mean, give response time, right? So is it applicable for weekends also, like Saturday, Sunday?
No, that's what I told, right? So this is applicable only for business hours support. Okay, for no, not this one. The developer is only for business hours support. Okay, so meaning, see, if you are raising if you are seeing 8 business hours, it's only during business hours, Monday to Friday working hours. Okay, based on the local country regulation. So just hours means 24/7. Okay, either weekdays or weekends or whatever. It's covering the weekends also. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So let me answer a couple of other questions. So Satya has asked about the edge location. Edge location is not a data center, but it's a kind of network room or a server room where we will have some kind of storage appliance, WAN appliances, network appliances to improve the caching. It's a kind of network room or a server room. Okay, it's not a very big data center, but definitely there is a set of IT components that has been put up there to improve the caching of your content. For example, in Hyderabad, we might not have physical Azure data center, but we might have point of presence there. So users in Hyderabad, if they want to access some applications running on Mumbai or Chennai, they might have some latency issues. If you want to improve the connection speed, or if you want to improve the content access, you can enable caching on Hyderabad location so that the contents that you are accessing from the Hyderabad will be available from the network or server room on the Hyderabad location, and they will have much better user experience. This is mainly for caching through a particular server room or a network room. It's not a data center, but rather it's a kind of IT room where you have some kind of appliances put up there to improve the caching. So there might be some WAN appliances to do some caching, like Riverbed or whatever technology they might be using to improve the speed or latency of accessing the content or applications. So Narayanan, to answer your question, okay, so Azure and
Thanks,
AWS
Sandeep.
plan are, yeah, no problem. So Azure and AWS plan are pretty much the same. They have the same basic developer standard, and I think instead of professional direct and premier, they have merged them together to something called premium support. Okay, so it's pretty much the same, Narayanan. Okay, so you don't have to, I mean, that's where cloud is easier to learn, compare and learn, right? See, for example, if you go and understand the plan, they call it as almost same: developer, business, enterprise on ramp, and enterprise. And if you compare it, it will be the same exact thing. Okay, this is AWS. Okay, since you have asked about it, I'm just explaining it. So here they will call it as business, and the name might be a little different. Okay, otherwise it's the same. Okay, they call it as enterprise support instead of premier support.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Salim,
Okay.
as you said, like one query, as you said about the edge, right? So normally edge location, like people will be preferring only if the latency need to be improved. In that case, or something else, we can say, as an example.
Yeah, so it's mainly to improve the latency, and it's main like as I said, there are two things, right? The point of presence can be used for interconnecting your data center or connecting your data center to Microsoft data center locations. The point of presence will have network points where you can connect your location data center. For example, if you have your data center in Hyderabad, you can connect your data center to that point of presence so that the data exchange happens through Microsoft backbone. So it improves the end user experience, plus it also improves the connectivity speed between your data center and see that is what I mentioned here, right? Where we can connect our data center, so that data center to data center, so on-prem to your own data center, and Microsoft data center speed will improve because you are connecting directly to the point of presence or the access point. Okay, it's two advantages are there. One is end user experience, and the data center to server to, I mean, if you have your application in your data center and you have another workload in Microsoft data center, the connection speed between the application will be improved. It's both end user experience and application to application connection experience also will get improved. Okay, so we are already 15 minutes over time. Yeah, go ahead, Arun.
Stands at this Giri. So edge
Yeah.
location is nothing but a kind of a network service to be enabled between two availability zones.
No, not really. So it's like, as I said, if you have some frequently accessed content, data, or information which you want to improve the speed, you can actually use this location. See, even you can think about connection between two different availability zones and all those things, but we don't control it. Okay, so Microsoft takes care of using the necessary point of presence to replicate the data and improve the speed. But this is primarily targeting towards the end user. For example, if you have some data or content or information that you are frequently accessing, that frequently accessed data or information or content will be made available. See, if you are a end user sitting in Hyderabad location, or like for example Bangalore, and the first time if the user has accessed the data from Chennai, the next users, if the point of presence is not enabled, all the users will be connecting to Chennai and accessing the data. But if you have some point of presence in Bangalore location, okay, the first time the end user connects to the data through the Bangalore location, the next time the other user connects, they will access the data from the Bangalore point of presence instead of Chennai. Okay, so that the time that it takes to access the same content will not be the same. I mean, it will be much faster. So the time taken to access the frequently accessed content will be reduced because the content is already cached in the Bangalore network room or Bangalore server room. Okay, so any
Yeah,
other
so
question?
one question.
Yeah, Amar.
Yeah, one
Yes,
question
Amar.
from you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was going through this geographic location. So I
Yes.
could see on the availability zone, Chennai, it is saying that nearest region with zone coming soon. So it means that Chennai is holding only one data center, right?
Correct. True. So Chennai
Okay.
at present, Chennai has got only one physical data center, and it might have more data centers in the future. So meaning it will have within Chennai itself, you'll have more data centers to avoid issues happening on. See, if one data center goes down, you will have more data centers to provide availability. Yes, that is the case. Yes, Amar.
Okay, that is fine. Okay. Then one more thing, like how about this region pairing? So I was going through that as well. So I
Yeah.
see Central India getting replicated to South India, as well the West India is replicating to South
Correct.
India. So will it be vice versa? Like I
Yeah,
just
true.
wanted
See
to
that,
know whether the
yeah. Yeah, the concept is like right? Mumbai and Pune are from the land proximity. They are very closer, right? There is
correct,
not much
right.
difference. You can, if something
Yes.
happens to Mumbai, it might impact Pune also. So that's why the secondary location for Mumbai and Pune is Chennai, and the secondary location
Okay.
for Chennai is Mumbai because Mumbai has got multiple data centers already. So it's better to replicate to Mumbai rather than migrating it to, replicating it to Pune. So Chennai secondary will be primary will be Mumbai if in case you are planning to create a DR, and for Mumbai and Pune the primary DR will be Chennai location. So that's why Chennai they are focusing to add more data centers to have much better availability.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, got it. And one last question, like regarding
Yes,
this
yeah.
average latency check, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we were going through.
Yeah.
So I selected one of the region. I mean, it's South India region. So it is saying 66 milliseconds. So is it normal? Because I see 66 millisecond latency is quite high, right? When we run
Yeah.
some mission critical applications.
Yeah. Where you are located, Amar? You are in Bangalore, right?
No, currently I'm in hometown.
Hometown, right? So
Oh,
see, you can
okay.
yeah, you have to run the latency test from the data
Okay.
center, from the official data center.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, understood.
You,
Yeah, sorry.
you have to
Okay.
log into your company's jump server, and from that jump server, you can do the testing, not from your home. See,
Okay.
if you are running from Nagarkoil, it will take some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, understood.
Anyways,
Yeah, thank you.
okay then.
Yes.
Any last question, team? I know, like I've taken 20 more minutes of your time. So if not,
Yeah,
thank you for
Stalin,
joining
I just
today.
want
Yeah,
to.
go ahead. Go ahead, Arun.
Yeah, I just need to clarify about the edge for 1 second. As you said, I understood the Chennai and in the middle Bangalore also we are creating edge part, but actually the data all will be available in the Bangalore in the edge location itself, or it's in the normal
No,
data center. All
it
the
will
data
have only, it is only for catching, right? Catching can be done only for a specific time interval. There will be a TTL configured, and only until that time the catching will be there. So definitely you should not have a longer catching if the data gets changed more. So that's where one of our attendees started talking about static content, dynamic content, and all those things, right? So definitely there is a catching time. There is a time to live on how much you can enable catching. Okay, so you cannot have a
Yeah,
longer
so
catching.
it's a kind of cache only we can. It's a concept, right? Cache concept only. It's
Yeah,
a
only
edge.
catching. Yes, it's only catching. Yes, it's a
So
catching option.
only the repeated data, frequently accessed data only that we can easily taken without any much latency.
Right. True.
Okay, fine.
I'll stop the recording, team. Thank you again for joining.